Peace, peace, peace. Peace, peace. All right, we're gonna redo the video from last night because of audio problems, technical difficulties, probably because we hooked up everything, Google Hangout, YouTube, free conference call, and Blog Talk Radio. I believe it was Blog Talk Radio because they're known for their inconsistency as far as their audio. So we're gonna do without Blog Talk, and we're gonna get the information that we went over last night and again. So for those that missed it last night, you're getting a chance to see it today. And for those that seen it last night or maybe even looked at it, you know, it's gonna be clearer this time. So we're gonna get into that information again, all right? Because we wanna make sure that this is clear, that everybody understand what is going on, all right? If you have any questions, make sure you ask at the end, all right? So get out your pen and paper, because if you didn't see it yesterday, best believe this is gonna be a doozy. So we're gonna get started. I'm gonna pull up my share screen. We're gonna get you on up in here, and we're gonna get it popping. All right, so college professor Dr. Clayton Zawadi Bell states that Africans are the only pure human beings. Everyone is a hybrid, right? This is what he states. He says the only race that are 100% pure human are so-called Black people, Africans. Okay? Everyone else is a hybrid. All right? In the final call, Undeniable Truths, Robert Muhammad, he states, in the recent years, it's been shown that through science of molecular genetics, that the DNA of the entire human family can be traced back to the womb of a Black woman living in Africa between 140,000 to 300,000 years ago. Let's make that clear, that this is a extremely conservative estimate based on what you're going to get into tonight. This research tells us that any and all humans' archaeological artifacts found buried in the earth can be dated as 300,000 years or older, or indeed the creations of the original Black man or Black people on the earth. Since according to the genetic records, only the Black man and Black woman could have existed at this time or at that time. And this is the truth of the matter. It's just what it is. But we existed way beyond 140,000 to 300,000 years ago. All right. Only Elijah Muhammad said something very important. He said, our fathers and mothers. All right. So that's interesting because saying that, all right, he says, long before there was ever a Caucasian on the face of the earth, you and I and our fathers were. Not just thousands of years, not just hundreds of thousands of years, not just millions of years, not just billions of years, but trillions of years ago, according to the word of Almighty God Allah, to me, that we and our fathers were here. There is no birth record, meaning there is no beginning record of the Black people. They have been here forever and ever, they have. We do not know nothing about the beginning. There is no prophecy of any ending of them. This is known. The world knows it. All right, so Honorable Elijah Muhammad made that very clear. And see, that right there should put us in the vicinity of where we're going with this at, because we understand that we have had many resurrections, right? We have had many resurrections, right? And not just many resurrections on the planet Earth, but on other planets, all right? Which you can see the previous video that we talked about, right? We talked about Mars, Saturn, all right? Even Jupiter, with details from Dr. Delbert Blair, who spoke about two brothers, Black, who came to him in the 1950s, who was from the planet Jupiter, all right? So we know that we've been here awfully long time because there's artifacts that has been found in South Africa, Transvaal, Western Transvaal, South Africa, right? Dating back to 2.8 billion years. We talked about this. Metal engineered spheres, unknown origin, because they said the only way in which that this could have been made was in zero gravity. But there's a particular iron ore that has not yet been found on planet Earth. All right. So Robert Muhammad breaks down the fact in the final call. He acknowledges that these metallic spheres, according to Mr. Max and the book's authors, were found in rock sedimentation that is about 2.8 billion years old. All right. He says the evidence is somewhat mysterious, leaving out the possibility that the South African groove spheres found in a mineral deposit 2.8 billion years old was made by an intelligent being. Intelligent indeed. If we take what we have learned from Honorable Elijah Muhammad with what has been discovered in the field of molecular genetics and add the evidence to this case, we begin to see a picture emerging of technologically advanced Black people in what is called Africa, who has mastered the metallurgical sciences, the sciences of separating and combining metals, close to 3 billion years ago, literally billions of years before the Triassic and Jurassic periods of the so-called dinosaurs, before the dinosaurs. If we was making these types of objects in zero gravity, think about the technology that we had, right? We showed you the sister in which that was found dating back to 1.5 billion years ago. A ship was found on the dark side of the moon in 1971 by NASA. And these actually was two who was called the Anunnaki Empresses, all right, as pilots. The starcraft was over 1 billion years old, full of gold advanced technology, right? Test tube beings during Apollo 14 through Apollo 21 mission. At least this is what's been told to us. She had this strange apparatus that connected her third eye area, her eyes, and her mouth. Right? This is obvious that she's melanated. You can tell that from the broad nose, the thick lips, the skin tone. She looks just like who we refer to as the golden skin of the San tribe from out of South Africa, who is called the world's most ancient race trace in DNA study. And come to find out that they have the most variants, right? So this is really what we're talking about here. So when we get to the 140,000 to 300,000 years ago, that's nothing. All right. This just shows you that we have survived. We are survivors. Right. This takes us back to the song, you know, I'll survive. All right. Back in the 70s. right? That's just what it is. That's old school. So we know that all races was born from the so-called black race. All right. Scientists report that everyone alive today descended from an African woman who lived way over 200,000 years ago. As I just showed you, the sister was 1.5 billion. All right. So what is now seen upon the planet is not the primary race. See, scientists, geneticists, Cavalli, Saforza, conservative geneticist now, she states that Europeans are not a primary race, but hybrids between African and Asians. According to moderate DNA research, Europeans are mostly Asians. Okay? The Asian people comes from the individual known as the Kong people or the San people from out of, right here in the center, from out of South Africa. As you can see, they have the same info eyelids as the Asians, the same facial structure, nose, lips. The Europeans came into the area after coming from out the Caucasus Mountains and mixed in with the Asians in order to lighten them up, when at one time they had this golden skin just like the San tribe, right? This golden brown skin just like the San tribe, right? This is what we do know. All right, so this is what Albions is saying. It appears that Europeans are about 2/3 Asians and 1/3 African. Okay, this is what the geneticist says. So from 2.8 billion years ago, we get 600 million years back when they have found a metal vase in Dorchester, Massachusetts, near Boston. All right, and it says it's made of unknown metal, but it's beautifully inlaid with pure silver, portraying 6 figures of a flower, a banquet, a vine, a wreath, and was blown out of a large 600 million year old pre-Cambrian rock at Meeting House Hill, Dorchester, Massachusetts. This was reported in the Scientific American magazine, volume 7, page 298, June 5th, 1852. So you have to go back and do your research. You can't stay in the 1900s or the 2000s. You gotta go back to the 1800s, because this is when they was telling you the truth of the matter, which stated that the chasing, carving, and inlaying are cleverly and exquisitely done. As you can see here, it is. It is. Now, this is during the same time as the Paleozoic era or the Paleozoic era. And this is took during the time with animal groups was just beginning to come into existence. What we're postulating is that these so-called black gods and black women, black men, these Neterus, Elohims, created the animal population through genetic manipulation upon planet Earth. This is what we postulate. You can take it or leave it alone. As Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, 300 million years old footprint. 300 million years to 440 million years. Prints of a man wearing shoes in which was the left foot had trodden down on a live 300 million year old trilobite creature, along with a child's foot with all 5 toes showing dimly, and other sandal prints found on a 700 million or the 700 M rock face in the House Mountain range east of the Antelope Spring, Utah. Reported in Mysteries of the Unexplained, New York Reader's Digest, 1982, page 46. 400-million-year-old shoe print made in Persian County, Nevada, which clearly show fine stitching. All right, fine stitching. Scientific American magazine. There it is, showing you this bell-shaped metallic vessel that was blown out of the rocks that was about 4 inches high and was covered with exquisite carving, indicating the presence of artistic metalworkers over 600 million years ago. See, this is what we're talking about, proving what we're talking about. Once again, Robert Muhammad following the same trail from out the final call. Right here, he shows you, all right, he says it right here, that in the section of the second appendix, the authors quote a report from Scientific American magazine, June 5th, 1852, concerning the blasting of a rock near Meeting House Hill in Dorchester, Massachusetts, where after fragments weighing several tons has been scattered, a bell-shaped metallic vessel resembling zinc in color was found. On the side of this, all right, metal vessel was 6 figures, all right, 6 figures. 6 figures, all right, of a flower, a banquet, beautiful inlaying with pure silver, and around the lower part of the vessel, a vine or wreath, also inlaid with silver. So this is the same report being told to you. So you might think that the book is crazy. You might think that the Nation of Islam is crazy. You might think that I'm crazy, but God damn it, we're bringing you the information, all right? That can't be denied. Anthropologists, archaeologists, paleontologists, none of them has come forth in order to do any battle with anyone concerning these matters. In particular, all right, Dr. Richard L. Thompson, nor Michael, all right, Cremo. They haven't. The authors quoting the report continued, this curious and unknown vessel was blown out of the solid put in stone 15 feet below the surface. They go on to state, according to a recent United States Geological Survey map of the Boston, Dorchester, Massachusetts area, the put in stone, now called the Roxbury conglomerate, is a pre-Cambrian age, over 600 million years old. By accounts, life was just beginning to form on this planet during the pre-Cambrian age. Wonder why? Because there was already beings here, obviously, who was making the donuts. They was already here making, all right? And when we take them out the nuts, we talking about the DNA, the nuts, all right? But in the Dorchester vessel, we have evidence indicating the presence of artistic metalworkers in North America, over 600 million years before Leif Erikson, the Viking, before Christopher Columbus, before Virgo Alberto Vespucci, who is called Amerigo. 600 million years before any of them, the black gods were here. The so-called black gods was already here. Once again, the black gods was already here in North America 600 million years ago. That means, according to the teachings of Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and genetic science verifies that the artistic metalworkers had to be black. They had to be melanated. All right, we understand what we're saying black in the sense of trying to get you to understand melanin, carbon. They was carbon beings. It was carbon beings because we know that melanin isn't on the periodical chart, but carbon is. And carbon is the 6th element. Hence the reason why Adam was made on the 6th day. It was talking about the 6th element. All right. The Mr. Track. All right. In 1968, William J. Meitzer and his family and friends was hunting fossils at Antelope Springs, once again, Utah. They was breaking open rocks slabs with hammers and found many trilobite fossils, which dated to 600 to 280 million years ago. When one 2-inch thick slab was broken open, which appears to be a sandal footprint, was discovered with 2 trilobite fossils in the step. The other imprint appearing to be human tracks also have been found in the same area, but without the trilobite smoking gun. Dr. Clifford Burdick investigated the area and found other prints as well as the barefoot imprint of a child foot, complete with toes. This is what we talked about earlier. The Mizza print is located at the Creation Evidence Museum. Here we have the mysterious letters from a quarry. Right? Think about it. This is writing, which they claim that writing came into existence with the Egyptians with the papyrus, the paper raw. This is 500 to 600 million years ago, a writing system on coins. This raised letter-like shape found inside of a block of marble from a quarry near Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. American Journals of Science, 1831, volume 19, page 361. The block of marble came from a depth of 60 to 70 feet in strata, dated 500 to 600 million years old. This is from Forbidden Archaeology, page 797. All right. Now, are we the only ones that believe? Are we the only ones that believe that life has gone back hundreds of millions of years? No, we have Baba Ishaka Musa Barashango, who I knew. All right. Once said in a lecture on the 200,000 years of African history that if we presented the African 400 million years history, we, the audience, will blow our brain circuits. All right, this is what was going on. So since Baba Barashango is not here, I move with his spirit in order to bring this about and to manifest more than the 400 million year old history as we're doing right now. This is information that he wanted to put out before he passed, but he did not get to. So I allow myself to be a vessel for this brother's information, and hopefully I'm doing a good job in his stay. Here we have the 400 million year old hammer. Hammer! All right, hammer. So according to the studies of the Metallurgical Institute of Columbia, the inside handle underwent the process of carbonization. The head of the hammer was built with a iron purity only achievable with modern day technology. According to analysis, the head of the hammer consists of 97% pure iron, 2%, all right, chlorine, and 1%, all right, 1% sulfur. In June 1936 or 34, according to some accounts, Max Hand and his wife Emma were on a walk when they noticed a rock with wood protruding from its core. They decided to take this oddity home and later crack it open with a hammer and a chisel. Ironically, when they found within seemed to be an archaic hammer of sorts. All right. They turned it to a team of archaeologists who checked it out. And as it turned out, the rock encased the hammer was dated to the Ordovician, all right, age or era, more than 400 million years ago. Hammer! That's what we're talking about right there. All right? Because you can't touch this. Ha 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 ha. That's old school. So you can't touch this. All right? Can't touch this information. This is truth right here. This is real. The Kentucky print. Right here we have the Kentucky print, y'all. All right. The strata in which this print was found dates back to 354 to 290 million years ago. And if these are in fact genuine human tracks, which they are, that's obvious from just looking at them, they would predate the scientific community's accepted date of moderate man by many, 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 many millions of years. You get it? Oh, right. All right, brother Saba. That's what I'm talking about. We're up in the house. Yeah, don't hurt him. Hammer. Exactly. Don't hurt him. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. All right, so so we had Charles Gilmore, Dr. Charles Gilmore, allegedly a top paleontologist at the Smithsonian Institute who been hiding shit from day one in 1940, says that he suggests that the tracks are a bipedal amphibian. Now, what goddamn bipedal amphibian? What amphibian do he know that got a goddamn human foot? None I know. See, these are the lying jackasses that we have to contend with, and the reason why we stuck in a 6,000 year, 200,000 year model of the humanity just coming into existence. Of course, see, the closer that you can stay to their time span of coming into existence, the Albions, that is, but they're the last on the planet to come into existence. See, everything else beyond them crushes their whole expectation of being the original people on the planet. See, these are lies that they have told their people, that they were the original people on the planet, that Adam and Eve looked like them. You know, you seen the goddamn books. You seen that shit from the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Watchtower. Adam and Eve is white on that bitch. But even in their own magazine, they had to come up and tell you right here in Newsweek magazine, January the 11th, 1988, depicted a black Adam and Eve on the front cover, headlining it, and it's called The Search of Adam and Eve. Science magazine, September 11th, 1987, states that the overwhelming evidence shows that Africa was the cradle of modern humans. All right, the story the molecular biologists or biology seems to be telling us that modern humans evolved in Africa about 200,000 years ago. Wrong, as we just showed you. See, they keep trying to stay with that story. National Geographic's October 1988 reports of a new evidence of an African origin for moderate humans. See, they have to go, they have to tell all of this truth, but then downplay, take zeros off, as they always do. See, while investigating the remains of a meteorite outside of Moscow in 1998, Russian scientists discovered a rock with a screw firmly fixed inside. Geologists estimated the age of the rock to be 300 to 320 million years old, older than the existence of dinosaurs. Older than the existence of the dinosaurs. Older than the existence of the dinosaurs. What people have to realize is that we have been genetically creating creatures on this planet, as you see, for hundreds of millions of years. Evidence shows that the iron atoms of the screw and the silicon atoms of the rock has in fact spread and fused, suggesting the screw is by no means a recent addition to the rock, meaning that it dates back to that time period. Bless you. Then you have the iron cup. Here's the iron cup right here to your left. This was found in by Frank Kennard, who working in the municipal electric plant in Thomas, Oklahoma. He found a chunk of the coal too large to use and break it with a sledgehammer, right? The pot fell out of the coal, leaving an impression of the pot in the coal. Jim Skull, a co-worker, witnessed the event. He traced the coal back to Wilburton mines of Oklahoma. And on November the 27th, 1948, Frank wrote a signed affidavit affirming to the facts of the discovery. So mainstream say that the coal was probably dropped by a miner, became buried under the coal, and then cemented together with water under pressure in a relatively short time. Nozzles seem to exactly form around objects. The truth is, the coal deposits of the Oklahoma mines are dated at 312 million years old. The only way that this pot could have been found in coal is if it was deposited before the coal formed. Da-da! Other human artifacts have been found in other coal mines of Oklahoma. Some of these were mined below the surface. Other coal deposits have also produced man-made artifacts around the world. You see, this is the lies that they have to tell themselves to deny the existence of the so-called black gods, of the Netarus, of the Elohims. All right, this is what they have to tell themselves. A handcrafted bell founded in a 300 million year old lump of coal. It is currently accepted by science and geology that coal is a byproduct of decaying vegetation. The vegetation becomes buried over time and is covered with sediment, and that the sediment eventually fossilizes and become rock. This naturally process of coal formation takes up to 400 million years to accomplish. It takes up to 400 million years to accomplish. It takes nearly up to 400 million years to accomplish. You see how this was in coal? Dating back to 312 million years. It can take up to 400 million years to accomplish. But anything that is found in lumps of coals or coal seen during mining has been dropped, placed or dropped into vegetation before it was buried in sediment. In 1944, a 10-year-old boy, Newton Anderson, dropped a lump of coal in his basement and broke it in half as it hit the floor. When he discovered inside defies explanation based upon the current scientific orthodoxy. Inside the coal was a handcrafted brass alloy bell with a iron clapper and sculptured handle. All right. When the analysis was carried out, it was discovered that the bell was made from an unusual mix of metals, different from any known modern alloy production, including copper, zinc, tin, arsenic, iodine, and selenium. The scene from which this lump of coal was mined is estimated to be 300 million years old. Once again, a petrified human skull. Another completely baffling artifact was unearthed in the form of a petrified human cranium with the eye sockets broken that was found along with other human bones and soft organs in Pennsylvania, and again in a Andaracid vein. According to official geological estimates, the structures of the Andarak site are of a minimum now of 300 million years old. They have found a human skull, the skull of the gods, which means that this man existed on Earth, all right, in the Carboniferous period, or probably even earlier. This is minimum 300 million years old. They found skulls, human skulls, and look how large that human skull is compared to the human skull that the guy have in his hand. Right? These were giants. All right? But human giants. Know that the so-called Anunnaki, and even before the Anunnaki, the Anunnakis are the elder gods. Then you had who were the ones who came and I guess you can say reverse engineered and crossbreeded DNA 200 to 300,000 years ago. All right, the Anunnakians did that. Then you had the elder gods, right, who were the Syrians, right? These Syrian beings was the ones who walked this planet Earth 2.8 billion years ago. All right. You had the Zapata track. In 1987, paleontologist Jerry McDonald discovered a number of fossilized tracks from many different species of animals and birds in the Permian strata dated at 290 to 248 million years ago. Among the tracks were prints of a human foot. Here it is. Oh no, that's a bipedal amphibian. Yeah, that's what that is. That's a bipedal amphibian. Yeah. Petrified footprints, a puzzling parade of Permian beasts. The Smithsonian, volume 23, July 1992, page 70. It had to be Permian beasts. I wonder why. Why it had to be beasts? Because that's a human footprint. That's not a monkey footprint. That's not a bear footprint. Hell, that's not even a goddamn Sasquatch footprint. That's a human footprint, goddammit. All right. They also found tracks of a three-toed creature, apparently took a few steps and then disappeared as though it took off and flew. The scientists said they know nothing. McDonald said he pointed out that they know nothing of any three-toed animal in the Permian age that was able to fly. But see, they don't know everything. And see, that's the situation that we present, is to clear up the nonsense.
Does Malachi York have the best account for the extraterrestrial history?
You would have to read and study that for yourself about Malachi York. And what we are doing is taking facts from the scientific world, all right, and historical analysis, and that's what we are putting together here. So Malachi York, he does have some good information. However, the information that you're going to see here will help further your research and study. Continue studying, all right? 300 million years back, all right? Ed Conrad, an amateur archaeologist, finds humanoid fossil skulls in coal beds in Pennsylvania, right? This is the same thing that we're talking about now. He also finds legs, bone fragments. A human skeleton was found in 300-year-old Silurian rock in Franklin County, Missouri, reported in Ancient Man in Missouri, Scientific American Magazine, September 1880, page 169. You see? And see, it wasn't until 200 million years ago that the dinosaurs began to dominate the earth. Jurassic period, 200 to 146 million years ago. We're talking about all of this information right here, 300 million years ago, intricately made 25 centimeters long, 8-carat gold chain. See, we was rocking the gold chains 300 million years ago. This ain't nothing new. Niggas been niggas from day one. 8-carat gold chain found in coal from 300 million year old Carboniferous era from the mines of Pennsylvania, discovered in 1891 by Mrs. S.W. Culp. Reported in Morrinsville, Illinois Times, June 11, 1891. Mysteries of the Unexplained, New York, Reader's Digest, 1982, page 46. We did it. To keep the information alive. How come you ain't been reading Reader's Digest? They don't come out like they used to. I don't hear nothing about them. But guess what? That's what you need to go back to. You need to go back to the Scientific American magazines, and you need to go back to the Reader's Digest. These are where these stories come from, originate from. That was told without the lies of the Smithsonian, without the lies of the paleontologists, the anthropologists, and the archaeologists, because they have to stay in conventional academia. Oh, this is what it's saying right here. Everything we have been taught about our origin is a lie, as you can already tell, because I already destroyed the lies within the last half an hour. It is an accepted belief that humans and dinosaurs did not coexist, according to conventional academia. See, you had to stay within that realm. You couldn't explore mentally, but then you start seeing shit like this, and then you have to change. Dinosaurs roamed the earth between 65 to 225 million years ago, whereas the earliest upright bipedal humanoid Homo erectus, what they tell you in academia, only appeared about 1.8 million years ago. And even then, they show you that he was still ape-like. However, in 1968, a paleontologist named Stan Taylor began excavating of fossilized dinosaur footprints discovered in the bed of Paluxy River near Glen Rose, Texas, where he unearthed, shocked, and dumbfounded the scientific community, as all of this information dumbfounds them. This is why we're using it, because we no longer are dummies ourselves. Let them continue being dumbfounded. Let them be found dumb. All right? But we're not going to be dummies any longer. Alongside the dinosaur tracks, in exactly the same Cretaceous fossilized strata, was well-preserved human footprints. Human footprints crossing three-toed dinosaur footprints fossilized in the Paluxy River bed. All right, there it is. You can see it. St. Louis, Missouri, footprints in Permian rock dates back to 200 million years old. In Burma, Kentucky, footprints in Pennsylvania rock dates back to 200 million years old. 195 million to 160 million years ago, fossilized footprints of a human shoe sole in limestone of the Triassic period. 160 to 195 million years old. It was found by Albert E. Knaps in 1927 near Fisher Canyon in Persia County, Nevada. A Rockefeller Foundation geologist in New York verified the specimen and definitely Triassic limestone. Micro photographs made of the fossils show very distinctly the imprint was that of a well-made piece of leather, all right, that has been stitched by hand. All right. My wife, grandma, always used to tell us that she a little piece of leather well put together. At one place, the threads, which were smaller than that used by shoemakers today, were seen to be double stitched. Here we had double stitch leather shoes. Think about that. We was rocking leather shoes back in almost 200 million years ago. God damn, we were some bad niggas. Reported in the Journal of Transvict Institute, all right? In 1908, a bad flood in the Paluxy River, Glen Rose, Texas, exposed layers of limestone containing thousands of human and dinosaur tracks. And the area was declared the Dinosaur Valley State Park. In 1930, Roland T. Byrd, field explorer from the American Museum, reported 15 to 20-inch long, clearly defined human footprints with dinosaur tracks. The human footprints ran next to, under, and over dinosaur footprints. A professor of medicine from the University of Illinois examined the tracks and was convinced that they were genuine. The stride between the human footprints are perfect. They perfect. All right? They perfect. 100 million years ago, human fossil again. We keep finding all these human fossils, but yet they only tell you about this Dagnesh, this animal, this ape-like species that they found 2.8 to 3.2 million years ago. But yet they finding human fossils 130 million years ago, 300 million years ago. All right? On back. right? 400 million years ago, 600 to 280 million years ago. They finding all of these footprints and relics and fossils, all these hundreds of million years ago, but yet not telling you about it. They're not telling you about them. They're still teaching this bullshit in school. Well, humans just came into existence around maybe 200,000 years ago. That's when we began to start having the first Homo sapien. Was around 200,000 years ago. Before that, the Homo sapiens took over the place from the Homo Neanderthal or the Neanderthals, which dates back to around 400,000 years ago. This is what they keep telling you over and over again. But yet, I'm showing you bones, skulls, footprints, artifacts, and relics dating back 2.8 billion years ago on planet Earth, in Africa, and in America. Actually interviewing Professor Jamie Gutierrez-Legay, author provides that I examined the professor's high-quality replica of the fossil, which he personally excavated in 1999 near Bogota, Colombia. He found it in Cretaceous rock, dating to around 130 million years old, and he showed me black and white photos of himself with the fossil at really dramatic mountain locations. He said, however, after a very frustrating hour, the predictable chink appeared in the story. This is what he says. I asked him, which university has confirmed the fossil were 130 million years old and that they were actually human hand bones? The professor replied, when I announced the discovery in 1999, two professors, Dr. Khadirah and Dr. Brown, from a historical organization in Texas, appealed to date the stone. They came to Colombia and I signed the fossil over to them and they still have it. So he dated it to be 130 million years old based on his carbon analysis. They didn't do it. They wouldn't do it. They appealed it, but yet they still have it. Once again, hiding the information. What good is that? The findings of scientists uncovered dinosaur prints and related human prints that have been verified by similar human dinosaur prints combinations in Australia and Turkmenia. So it's just not in Africa and the United States, as it is called now. We say America, but in Australia and Turkmenia, under the mountain of California, amidst dinosaur bones that have been found, actually human remains. Amidst dinosaur bones have been found actual human remains. Found among these is the Khadirah skull, found beneath repeated layers of volcanic rocks at a depth of 132 feet. With reference to this earlier, American Journal of Science, 1866. All right. Right here, skulls of 10 moderate humans were excavated from 58 feet below the surface in the Dakota sandstone in the same formation known for its dinosaurs. This formation, found at Dinosaur National Monuments, is a member of the Lower Cretaceous, supposedly 140 million years old. At least 4 of the 10 individuals were females. One is an infant. This is from 1993. Page 12 and 13 of what is known as the Setterfield Creation and Catastrophism. In 1961, a petroleum geologist discovered a large bone bed in northwestern Alaska. Among them bones of duck-billed dinosaurs, horned dinosaurs, and large and small carnivorous dinosaurs. At the time of the writing, William A. Clement and other scientists from the University of California and Berkeley and the University of Alaska was quarrying the bone bed. It took 20 years for scientists to accept that these were dinosaur bones. At initial announcement, we printed in 1985 a geological survey, Society of the American Abstract Program, volume 17, page 548. Already in the press at the time was an article describing the site and the condition of the bones. Duck-billed dinosaur, this is Clyde L. Davis, and from the North Slope of Alaska. Journal of Paleontology, volume 61, number 1, page 198, 200. Now, here's the problem. These bones are still in fresh condition. They are not fossilized, and they were not preserved by cold. It is standard geological interpretation that after the dinosaurs died out, the entire planet was much warmer. Dr. Margaret Helder, science editor of Reform Perceptions magazines, comments on this find. These recent developments and certainly food for thought. It is undeniable that fresh dinosaur bones have been found, items from a period in specular literature saying exactly that. It is also evidence the preservation in the fresh state for even 1 million years is highly unlikely. The observed conclusion is that these bones were deposited in relatively recent times. This bone bed is stunning evidence that the time of the dinosaurs was not millions of years ago, perhaps only thousands of years. In its time, geologists recognized the implications of their own data. All right. We know that this has to be true because there's been reports from out of Africa of some type of small brontosaurus running through villages. All right. This has been documented. Right. This was even in Ripley, Believe It or Not. Right. But this is what happens when you begin to start doing the research. Now you can start adding the pieces of the puzzle together. Creation Ex Nihilo, volume 14, number 3, June, August 1992, page 16 and 17. Here's a fossilized human finger. All right. Another similar artifacts that seem just should not have existed in this fossilized human finger. This fossil, known simply as DM93-083, dates from the Cretaceous age or period of about 100 to 110 million years ago. A finger, they have a whole goddamn finger. X-rays of the specimen has also shown less dense areas within the finger, revealing the presence of marrow within the bone, shown in the slide by the darker area. You think they haven't already tried to clone this mug back into existence? You better think again. A CAT scan was used, and a human fossilized finger showed these dark areas showing the interior of the bone and bone marrow along with the tendons. Right? This is what is shown to you over and over again. Right? And where was this found at? All right, where was this found at? Well, it was found, fossilized human remains found in Carboniferous stratus near Mahone City, Pennsylvania, 1982. All right. Ed Connor's here at the bottom, right there, as you see. Okay. He's the guy in which that found these particular artifacts that we just went over. All right. Here we have a fossilized human handprint. We also have the amazing and thoroughly impossible discovery of a completely fossilized handprint, which corresponds perfectly with an actually human hand, which was found in limestone at Glen Rose. The fossil shows a considerable amount of details, even the print of thumbnail. Do you really realize how long this takes for something to fossilize? This fossil quite simply should not exist because the limestone in which the handprint was found had been designated to be from the middle Cretaceous period, which places it around 110 million years old. Once again, 110 million years old. Stop with that bullshit that you just got on planet Earth 6,000 years ago biblically, that you just got on planet Earth scientifically 200,000 years ago in human form known as Homo sapien. Wrong. You've been human from day one. And hue means being able to take in those various light of the spectrum, of the visible spectrum. Roy G. Biv. Man means mind. So you've been the human in that sense, the God man, the natural. All right. And when I'm talking about man, I'm talking about the mind. So that includes woman and man. Right. So here we have 100 million years, fossilized human finger found in the Canada Arctic, dating back 100 to 110 million years. Fossilized handprints dated to the same era, ancient era, has also been found. So this is them talking about the same thing again now. All right. We come on down to 75 million years ago, and we find something very important, that they speak of a nuclear war or atomic blast that have taken place on the planet. So this is not the first time that we have discovered nuclear technology since 1945 with the bombing of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. All right, and Hiroshima or Hiroshima is named after Hiru, all right, and Mayat, and Nagasaki is named after the Anunnaki, the Nagas, all right, in which that goes back to Neter, which means the gods, all right, the city of the gods, or the city of the serpents is what Nagasaki means. So these skeletons are among the most radioactive ever found, on par with those found at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They was found at Rishi City in Pakistan, Mohenjo-daro. This is where it was found by archaeologists in the late century. These skulls was found there, but guess what they also found? They found also glass. They say they eventually stopped in China. All right, this is basically called the Loup Nor Desert. All right, but they found all types of shit. But here, ancient cities whose bricks and stone walls have literally been vertified, that is, fused together like glass, can be found in India, Ireland, Scotland, France, Turkey, and other places. So when they talking about meteorites hit the planet Earth 65 million years ago, for all we know, shit, based on what we seen here, that took place 75 million years ago, which was around the same time of the dinosaurs, nuclear technology. We could have blasted their ass off the goddamn planet, if you understand what I'm saying, because look at the areas. I suggest that that's what happened. This is what Zechariah Ascension is really talking about in the book, The Wars of Gods and Men. He don't go back far enough. He just keep it at the Anunnakian age, when this shit happened millions of years ago. Okay? It says right here, there is no logical explanation for the vitrification of stone forts and cities, except for an atomic blast. Except for an atomic blast. That's the only way that it could be explained. The Loup Nor Desert in Western China is known to be a canter for a great UFO mystery. All right. And it says that scientists drilled down in an excavation near Babylon, all right, in Iraq, and found various stratas contain evidence of different, all right, of different civilizations. Different civilizations now. They eventually stopped what they when they hit a wall of glass, like the sand had been fused together by a nuclear blast. All right. All right. Even in Scientology, they teaches you that Zeno ordered nuking of the earth. Okay. So see, this is how you, in mysteries, you find out what was going on, all right? Because obviously the meteorites didn't hit. That was a bullshit story that they told you in school. Oh, the meteors around 65 million years ago. The meteorites killed the dinosaurs and wiped the dinosaurs off the planet. And all that is bullshit. We just told you what happened. Atomic blast. They nuked the dinosaurs and the other creatures in which that they did not take underground with them to survive the blast. Truth. 70 million years ago, human skull was found in Cretaceous strata. Glenman, Colorado, reported Saturday Herald, Iowa City, April 10th, 1867. 70 million years ago, fossil human second lower molar tooth found in 70 million year old Escocene coal at Billings, Montana on November 1926. In the number 3 Eagle Mine at Bear Creek. The Carbon County News, Montana, November 11th, 1926. Also again in Reader's Digest, page 46. Telling y'all, you better get that damn, better get it. Better get it. Texas, man, Texas. Woo! Texas got it, don't it? A whole new wave of genetic race debate came in May 2010 with the reporting of the initial results of the Neanderthal genome project. Those pointed to interbreeding between Neanderthals and modern humans, which has left a genetic legacy between 1% to 4%. It goes as high as 10%, y'all, of Neanderthal autosomal DNA in non-African Eurasians. Blogger Lee John Barnes on the right-wing website 21st Century Britain Nationalism states seized on this proclaim, yes, race exists, and outlined the new race theory. He states that the fact that the modern Europeans are part Neanderthal explains racial differences. It does, because those who come more so from the Neanderthal bloodline means more of their pineal gland is calcified. So this is what they're happy about, of calcification of the pineal gland. He translates the Neanderthal Genome Project team 1 through 4% DNA for all Eurasians into modern Europeans has a minimum of 4% DNA from Neanderthals equals whites who are descendant of the Cro-Magnon. The original Cro-Magnon was melanated. All right. The Albion came once again later, much later, because the Cro-Magnon was around the Grimaldi, the Cro-Magnon, or the Cro-Magnon man. That was around 200,000 years ago. That become the Homo sapien. The Neanderthal was another group of Homo sapien. All right. The Neanderthal died off, and the Cro-Magnon continued living on and became the Homo sapien sapien. All right. This is what is said in science. East Asians have 2% DNA from Neanderthals, the Oriental racial group. Black Africans have no DNA from Neanderthals, African blacks. It appears that the Australian Aborigines do not have any Neanderthal DNA either. So they are also archaic Homo sapiens from Africa. This despite project team member geneticist David Reich saying that all non-Africans, be they from France, China, or Papua New Guinea, share the same amount of Neanderthal DNA, suggesting that the inbreeding occurred between these populations split. Genetic evidence also suggests that the Australian Aborigines descended from the same lineage as the first modern humans to migrate from Africa. All non-Africans, part Neanderthal, geneticists confirmed. All right, this is what they found. So we find here in the book, Gods and the Spacemen in the Ancient West by Raymond Drake. He states that the Pygmies inhabited Earth for 30 million years. right? This is a conservative effort on his part. At least he put it back way beyond the 200,000 years that they try to claim. And see, they try to say that the pygmies or Homo erectus, that they evolved from the Homo erectus line. All right, so they didn't evolve from the Homo sapien line, such as the Neanderthals and the Cro-Magnon man. This is what they try to say, but guess what they found? All right, they found a sample of 320 Aka pygmies was studied for ABO, Reese's, Kell, Duffy, Kidd, MNSS, Lutheran, and Colton blood group antigens. The result shows that the Aka pygmies have the blood group characteristics of Black people. Look like Black people to me. Look like Black folks to me. They just small Black folks, but they still Black folks, ain't they? As if he can't tell that. So he had to go into the genes in order to see. He had to go in the genes in order to find out what these little men really Black. In other words, melanated people. That's what they had to do. Because the Albion was lying. Years ago, he would say that the pygmies descended, the white race descended from that the pygmies were the white race. Was part of the white race. All types of things he was saying in the older books. All of these become the lies. As we kill all the lies right here and right now, today, goddammit. Remember, this is just part 2. We're going to do later on part 2 again to part 3 tonight. It says a higher frequency of R negative haplotype, a high portions of U negative, A negative, B negative people, a low frequency of K gene. All these results confirm that the African pygmies can be considered as a very ancient population from Africa and probably have a common origin with African people. This is called a study of blood group antigens in Aka pygmies. Now, everybody else that they say in Africa has common ancestry, and they was obviously confused about the African pygmies having that consideration and connection. But guess what? We find it says because it is from some of the people that never went out of Africa, it is the blood groups that are mainly found in people from Africa or in few African Americans. Seems that like this thing was not something that groups that settled the world carried. The U antigen is a high incident antigen occurring in more than 99% of the population. The U was originally short for universal, though this is not the case. U negative RBCs can be found in people of African descent. This mutation in red cell surface structure also makes the RBCs S negative and S negative. Anti-U has been associated with both hemolytic transfusions, reactions, and hemolytic disease of the newborn. U negative is a specific blood type found in 1 out of 250 African Americans. Most Black Americans and all white Americans, all right, have one of the most familiar types, A, B, or O. When you consider that Black people comprises 12 to 13% of the population of the United States, that means that only about 1 of every 2,100 Americans has this rare blood type. For example, the U negative blood type occurs only in Black people. So this is why they had to tell you that the pygmies were Black people, was because they have what? The U negative blood. The U negative blood, not the O negative blood, which is used by Europeans to claim that they are extraterrestrials, which is bullshit, which I'll get into that tonight. For example, the U negative blood types occur only in Black people, said Dr. W. Lawrence Marsh, Senior Vice President of the Center. No white people have ever been found to be U negative. Once again, no white people has ever been found to be U negative. Say that again. No white people to be found to be U negative. It is a blood type just like any other, but it doesn't occur very much. And if you need U negative for any person, then you have got to have Black donors. So the problem is for us to identify Black donors. It makes no sense to screen 100,000 whites for U negative when no U negative white person has ever been found. So U negative blood, not O negative blood, is older blood. Remember, the O negative blood only dates back to 300,000 years ago, 200 to 300,000 years ago, according to individuals such as Dr. Peter D'Adamo. Conversely, only whites have blood types Val negative and Land negative. Dr. Marsh says there are records of people having a blood type that exists only in remote villages or in one family. All right. There's 32 different blood types, y'all. Okay, that has been discovered thus far. All right, 32. So, the pygmies date back to 30 million years ago. Here we have an ape species, which dated back 33 million years ago, which was around the same time as they claim as the pygmies were already upon planet Earth, in human form, that is. You have the Egyptopithecus zeaxis. It says probably the best known of the Proplydopithecines, believed to be an ancestor of the old world monkeys and hominoids, first discovered in Egypt, Fayum Depression, 1906. Then you have the Proconsul, 23 to 14 million years ago, old, one of the best representative of the Miocene hominoids in the fossil records. All right, then you have the Shivapithecus, 8 million years ago, from the latter Miocene era. But the fact is that look at the skull shape of this ape-like man, as they keep talking about, which they love talking to us about, and the skull of the pygmy. I'm sorry, but one is an ape, one is human. Ape, human. Ape, human. So that means man existed during the time of the ape-like species that they keep finding. But see, remember, they only claim that you in human form, even though the pygmies was here 30 million years ago on Earth, as they have already verified and older, they say that you only really came into human form 200,000 to 300 to 200,000 years ago. Genetic evidence for the archaic admixture in Africa. Apply computational likelihood approach to the DNA sequence data gathered from a sample of sub-Saharan Africans. Found evidence for several introgressive haplotypes, frequencies of which were highest in pygmies population from Central Africa, and to a lesser degree, hunter-gatherers from Southern Africa. So who did the pygmies mix in with? We're gonna get to that in a second, right? And I can tell you, all right, that it wasn't no chimps, right? What we find out is that They mixed in with Homo heidelbergensis 600,000 years ago. So prior to the pygmies, all right, 30 million years ago, there was the pure humans from the gods in which that came upon planet Earth, in which that dates back to 2.8 billion years ago. But then with the creation of the gods, with this Homo heidelbergensis, or Bergensis, however you pronounce that, 600,000 years ago, this is the admixture in which that they're talking about, all right? And this was not an ape, as you can see from the skull, all right? This is more of a reverse engineered humanoid or hominid, or hominoid, right? As you see, actually a hominoid, as you see, all right? 600,000 years ago. So this is who the Twa people, the pygmies mixed in with. That was during the time period of the 600,000 years ago. The Europeans came from the Homo Neanderthal linseed, all right, 200 to 300,000 years ago, all right, as well as also the Asians, who was also mixed in with who we refer to as the Denisovan. The Denisovan is the ancestor, which dates back to 400,000 years ago, all right? The Australians, the Aboriginal Australians, as well as also the Asians have Neanderthal, well, the Asians have Neanderthal and Denisovan genes. As you've seen, it says high as 4% for the Asians out of the or higher. All right, I've read articles where it goes as high as 8 to 10% in Europeans and Asians, but on the average around 4% for Asians. But they also have a high amount of Denisovan genes or DNA also, all right, that they've inherited. All right. So let's get back to breaking this information down a little bit more. Since we had to get there, we got to show you how all of this came about. Right? Remember, we're keeping in line with the timeline. So what we find out that the monkey species go no further back in history than 20 million years ago. So the Twa people could not have been mixed with the apes, which are, i.e., the chimps or gorillas, because they go no further back than 20 million years ago, y'all. And I showed you who they was mixed with 600,000 years ago, which was based on reverse engineering and cross DNA. All right. But here we have the ape species that go no further back than 20 million. So that means that the Twa people in human form was on planet Earth before ape-like creatures coming from the ape species over 20 million years ago. Because the ape, chimp, gorilla species themselves are a byproduct of genetic tampering that the gods were doing to humanize these gorillas and chimps. We'll get to that. Let's go to the history of the Twa people, the pygmies. Get the book Origin and Evolution, Primitive Man, Albert Churchward. And he states, from here, these little men spread it all over the world, north, east, south, and west, until not only Africa, but Europe, Asia, North and South America, and Oceania was populated by them. He was the first, the little red man of the earth. From the pygmies, evolution continued progressively in the following order. Then you have the Bushmen, the Mesoba, Negro, the Nilotic Negro, the Maasai from out of Kenya, and the Mongoloids, and then the so-called Aryanists. Right? This is what was written from Albert Churchward in 1912. So he's saying that the Pygmies were the first beings descended from the gods, the Neterus. All right, and it wasn't until 6,000 years with the making from the gods that they humanize these species to the point of 6,000 years ago to be almost human-like, and which meant that now they was able to genetically interbreed. But we'll get to that in a second. Oh, he states the first man was the little pygmy. Descendants are still found in different parts of the world. In South America, China, Malay, New Guinea, and probably other places, but the majority was still living in Africa, where his original home was and is, around and near the Great Lakes of the head of the Nile. All right. In the origin and evolution of Freemasonry, connection with the origin and evolution of the human race, Dr. Albert Churchward, he says the first men was the little pygmies. He says the Egyptian wisdom registered the fact that the pygmies were the earliest humans, because the earliest divine man known in the mythology is portrayed as a pygmy. Following the zootypes, the primitive form of Elder Horus, which is Heru, was that of Bes. Bes is a figure of the child Horus in the likeness of a pygmy. Here he is, right? Right in the center. Get the book, The Hidden Life in Freemasonry. See, it's in the secret societies that you got to go in and find this truth, find this information, so that you won't be lied to any longer. No more lies, goddammit. The lies are over. All right, these goddamn lectures we've been doing now for a month is the nail in the coffin of any damn liars. No more lies, no more misrepresentation, no more disinformation, no more misinformation. We want the goddamn truth. All right. C.W. Ledbetter, 33 degrees, states 33 degrees. He had the highest level now in Freemasonry, in the Scottish Rites. That pygmy race is a relic of the old Lemurians. The old Lemurians now. Now, why the word Lemurian is called to come from lemur, all right? And it says the first true, check this out now, the first true primates evolved by 55 million years ago, or a bit earlier, nearing the beginning of the Eocene epoch. Their fossils have been found in North America, Europe, and Asia. They look different from the primates today. They were still somewhat squirrel-like in size and appearance. The lemurs, the apes species evolved from the squirrels, but they said it was squirrel-like in size and appearance. As you see here, it's called a Simiodactys, lemur-like family, adapted from the Eocene epoch. You have a 47 million year old fossil here from Germany, right, of the Adaptidat. Much of the soft tissue, including fur, is fossilized. Coming from a squirrel, y'all. And you want to tell me that there was no genetic tampering? And the first true primates was 55 million years ago? But I showed you the gods was already on the planet. The Neters was already on the planet. The Elohims was already on the planet. Dating back 2.8 billion years ago. So that means that they had to be the ones to make the people and the animals upon this planet. Hence the reason why the Bible tells you that Adam named the angels. Adam named the animals. because it's talking about genetics. So from the lemurs, and you have the loris, you have the prosimians, all right, which is also the tarsiers. You have the new world monkeys, the old world monkeys, right? The gibbons, the orangutans, the gorillas, chimpanzees, and hominids, all right? They are the anthropoids and the hominoids, as you see here, all right? These are the primate ancestors from a squirrel. From a squirrel. So technically, are they saying that the pygmies came from squirrels? Came from the lemurs? Or rather, they was on what become called islands of the lemurs or the Lemuria, which is actually the Hawaiian Islands. They're saying that these men, the pygmies, were on the Hawaiian Islands. All right. At one time, the Hawaiian Islands included much of Easter Island, much of the Samoan Islands, much of Tonga Islands, much of those particular islands were at one time all together to form basically a continent called Lemuria, or a large landmass called Lemuria. And basically, most of it, a lot of it sunk beneath the ocean floor. And what you have now is people living on tops of the mountain points and so forth and so on, of the landmass in which that did survive from the mountain points. But at one time, all of that was connected. So it says that the Pygmies race is a relic of the old Lemurians and present them more purely than any other people. The Lemurians were at one time a gigantic people. It was at one time a gigantic people. All right. This is where you get the stories of the giants that human beings grew up to 36 feet tall. Then came down in size to 25 feet, to 18 feet, to 13, 12 feet, to 10 feet, 9 feet, to eventually 8 to 7 feet, to now 6 to 5 feet. We diminish in size to the size of the 12, which is now nearly 5 feet tall. The Lemurians were at one time a gigantic people, but in the process of dying out, they diminished in size. And also what caused them to diminish was the lack of oxygen content. Because before 1960, before the 65 million years ago, the oxygen content of the air was 35%. After 65 million years ago, the content of the air, which is oxygen, dwindled to 21% from 35%. Hence, the diminishing in size. See, we're gonna handle every damn thing, every question, everywhere we can go to. We're gonna try to answer all your questions, because this is just what this is. The day is the day. The African Bushmen were also remnants of the same race, but they was very mixed blood. All right, so the same people that we showed you, these are remnants of the same race, the Twa people, but they was but they have very mixed blood. Who mixed with them? What blood are they mixed with? The same thing is true of those who are actually called the Australian Aboriginals, except that in this case, they are a very admixture of Aryan blood. So see, we know that they have European Albion blood in them because they was trying to whiten them up. At one time, the Pygmies were spread it out a great deal more of Africa than at present, and some of them were the first people to enter into Egypt. So the Australians, the Aborigines of Australia, you can watch the movie Bulletproof Fence, right? Bulletproof Fence, I believe that's the name of it, Bulletproof Fence, in which that they show you how the Europeans went in and sexed the Aborigines, raped them, dehumanized them, colonized them, did the same damn thing that they did to us here in the Americas, as us being the indigenous Aborigines here in the Americas. All right. Albert Churchward in his book, Signs and Symbols of Primordial Man. As you see, I like Albert Churchward's information because he goes in. He tells you who the original people were, so-called black people, just like Honorable Elijah Muhammad told you. All right? Albert Churchward, Signs and Symbols of Primordial Man, states that the Pygmies are the original and the oldest living people on the face of the earth. The Nile River or the Nile Negroes were probably one of the first En-Route race. En-Route also is from En-Nu race that was the first and oldest race of men after the Pygmies. The En-Nu, misnomer Pygmies, invented much of the early hieroglyphics writings used in ancient Egypt. By 4000 BC, they probably invented the precursor to the cuneiform form writing of Mesopotamia. All right. Dr. Clyde Winter speaks about this. All right. So this is what we're talking about. So here we have from the Twa people and showing that they populated the world. From them, you get the various or the variances of DNA. All right. But here we have 28 million year old. All right. But before we get to 28, go to the 40 million year old human footprint found in Kenton, Oklahoma, and north central Wisconsin. Now we get to the 28 million year old human skull found in extremely hard 28 million year old limestone on the coast of French Caribbean island of Guadeloupe in 1812, belonging to a woman about 5'2" tall. The fully, now that would be what we call a negrito, or what we call a pygmioid, all right, because 5'2", still short in stature. The fully human Guadeloupe woman's skull is complete in every respect except the feet and heads are missing. It is authentic discovery, which has been in the British Museum for over half a century. All right. When the 2-ton limestone block containing Guadeloupe women was first put on exhibit in the British Museum in 1812, see, they took it down. It was first displayed as proof of the Genesis flood. In 1881, see, they was trying to still keep that bullshit. But see, this shit went back to 28 million years ago, way before they goddamn Genesis flood story, which they claim was about 6,000 years ago. All right. In 1881, however, the exhibit was quietly taken down to the basement and remains there to this day. My wife and I went to the British Museum, and the curator of the museum that day told us specifically that it was only 20% of what you've seen above on the floor. The other 80% is beneath in the basement. We wanted to go and see, so we asked him, could we go and see? He said the head curator of the museum wasn't there that day, so therefore he didn't have the ability to do so. But if we come back again and he's there, it might have been a possibility. All right, so we're gonna keep up with that. So here, 20 million years ago, recent epoch of geological begins, ice age ends, human beings spread to all parts of the world. All right, who's the human beings of 30 million years ago? Now to 20 million years ago, it were the Twa people, the Pygmies. All right, 13 million years ago, you had Dr. Javier Gorira discovered about 40,000 stone tablets called the Inca stones in Peru desert near Acuca Ja, details advanced science in the Peruvian desert of Acaja. And it says that these Inca stones and carvings show detailed and complex ideas of astronomy. Step by step, a heart and kidney transplant. So they was doing kidney transplants and shit 13 million years ago. And C-sections 13 million years ago. They knew about genetic disorders and more, acupressure or puncture 13 million years ago in Peru. That's South America, y'all. showing you again that we was already here in the Western Hemisphere before the advent of the Europeans, who did not come upon planet Earth until half that time later, 6,000 years, as we'll get into later on tonight. But why would they have to know about genetic disorders? Because they was doing genetic breeding, as I'm telling you. Reverse engineering and cross DNA splicing. They also described the excavation of a large-headed, small statue race to a planet from which now be in the Pleiades star cluster. Now we know who the small statue race would be, the pygmies. So the pygmies learned how, and see they had large heads, right, as you see, right? Their heads, you know what I'm saying, can be pretty big compared to their bodies. But it says they small statue, and that this race, all right, excavated, left planet Earth, and went to the Pleiades. The Twa people are the Palladians, not them, not Starfleet Command / the Astar Fleet, whatever they call that shit. Europeans always trying to show themselves up in there. Sorry, that's not true. All right, ain't no Europeans in space. All right, this is all lies to make themselves feel good and add themselves up into our storyline. But I'm here to break down the true story, and we're gonna get the true story today. All right, human footprints found in the same layer of dinosaur prints in Glen Rose, Texas, which we talked about, but here it is some more. All right, it was also discovered near Tuba City in Arizona. Right, fossilized man tracks were discovered. So let's continue on. Right, they found 12 million years ago, they said skulls of 2 moderate human children, a man and a woman, found in undisturbed Pleistocene strata of at least 12 million years old ago in Castellanodolo, Italy. Discovered in 1860 and reported by A. Keith, The Iniquity of Man, 1925, page 335 to 340. Sergi Rivesta di Anthropologia, volume right here, 17, all right? And it's called Rome and M. Bowden, it says, Ape Man, Fact or Fallacy. Bromley Kit, it says Solvent Publication, 1981, page 7980. In Calaveras, California, a skull identified as unmistakably human was found in the middle of a mountain in Pleistocene strata. BWH alleged discovery of an ancient human skull in California. This was 12 million years ago. American Journal of Science, 1866. Fisher Canyon, a shoe print was clear trace of strong threads in coves date back to 12 million years ago. A shoe print, once again. You have a tooth from 9.7 million years ago. And it says that this tooth will rewrite history, or could rewrite history. Here's the tooth right here. All right. They're worrying about that tooth. They'd be worrying about all this other information that we just talked about. All right. Right here, in 1974, Dr. Donald Johanson, paleontologist or paleoanthropologist, discovered that the fossil of a female hominin, Australopithecus. Now, this is a misnomer. Dr. Ben gets to that in a second. Known as Lucy, in the Afar Triangle region of Hadar, Ethiopia. Lucy dates back to 2.8 to 3.2 million years ago. This is what and who they say that the African people descended from. Was from the Australopithecus. Not even the African Pithecus, but the Australopithecus from out of Australia. The arrogance of Dr. Donald John Hanson, paleoanthropologist. It was found 40% complete. Skeleton discovered in 1974 by Donald John Hanson from International Fall Research Expedition. And it was the oldest hominid fossil yet found in South Africa. But we found more, as I showed you, right? We found more fossils in America that dates back further than this ape-like fossil that they speak of, which is Lucy. Lucy Australopithecus. Lucy Australopithecus. I guess that's her name. Or Africans refer to it as Dagnesh. But here you have 2.4 million years ago, Homo habilis, and you have 2 million years ago, Homo erectus. All right, so it was 1 million years between Lucy Australopithecus and the Homo erectus came into existence. It was 400,000 years between the Homo habilis and the Homo erectus. NASA images finds 1.75 million years old man-made bridge. All right, man-made bridge, right? And they called the bridge Adams Bridge and made of a chain of shoals 30 kilometers long in a Black Strait between India and Sri Lanka. All right. That's where it was. It said that it is definitely man-made. So we know that none of these so-called men was able to do that. All right. So this is Dr. Ben's book, Mother of Western Civilization, Dr. Yusuf Ben Yakinen. He goes into the fact that allegedly Europeans say that we have a common ancestor with primates, yet can't find it, but he does say ape immediatary links to an ape-like ancestors. As this conjuncture, it must be noted that the Sir Charles Darwin had used the term ape-like ancestors and not an ape, as so many of his religious detractors has stated since his proclamation. The confusion as well as the prosecution of all paleontologists and their associates by members of the clergy in all three faiths labeled Western religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, continues to this very day. However, the collection of human fossils accumulates beyond imagination, right? So as we know, I've showed you many fossils, and so Dr. Ben goes over into some of these discoveries. All right, I won't get into a lot of them, but he does go into it. 1864, he speaks of British associate, a skull in which that was found, or fossil head that was found that was similar to, identical to a Neanderthal, but it was discovered in England. 1866, he speaks of a lower jawbone in which that was discovered in what is now known as Belgium, all right, in Europe. And it was the appearance of a Neanderthal, all right. 1866, they had skeleton remains of 3 men. 2 of these skulls was almost intact, including some of their limb bones, all right. These human remains was also mixed with some animal bones, all right, during the Maastrichtian period, giving rise, all right. Here we have a partial chronological list of dates of fossil men unearthing Akibalon. You have the the Parapithecus farcis. This is Egypt, 1910, unearthed by Max Scholesser, an African ape now of more than 35 million years. So why would they even put that on the list when that was actually African ape of 35 million years ago? You see? Then you have the Proplyopithecus, Egypt, 1910, unearthed by Max Schloller, which is also an African ape, bigger than the Parapithecus. You have the Homo capronus, which is called the Hopkins man, from out of South Africa. And the original name of South Africa in 1913 was Monomotapi, all right, which was found in 1913. All right, that's the ancient name though for South Africa. So let's call South Africa now Monomotapi. All right, then you had the Odowe skeleton unearthed in Tanzania, East Africa, 1914. You have the Homo zambianus, formerly called the Rhodesians, from out unearthed in Zambia, East Africa. All right, 1921. You have the African Lopithecus, right? Misnamed Australopithecus, African Afarensis, or Africanus, unearthed in Botswana, Monomotapa, which is basically South Africa, 1924. You have Wally's Kapji, skeleton unearthed in Kenya, East Africa, 1927. You have the element Tieta skulls or skeletons found in Kenya, East Africa, 1927. All right. And you have all of these. All right. All of these. All right. And I won't go into all of them. No need to. Go and get Dr. Ben's book. He speaks about it. Right. So notice that they was putting in there, but obviously they were saying that these was apes and not ape-like. But yet, Charles Darwin said ape-like. So that means that there had to been some type of modification, because if it could be demonstrated that any complex organ structure existed which could not be possibly have been formed by numerous successful slight modifications, my theory would absolutely break down. So only reason why his theory has stuck around so long is because of slight modifications, which are known as microevolution. There's never, nor has there ever been macroevolution, never. All right, and plus, The Origin of Species, which is Charles Darwin's book that they always talk about, the real title was The Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection or the Preservation of Favored Races in the Struggle of Life, for Life. All right? Kester's notes Darwin's view on race. He says, never considered the less civilized races to be authentically human. Notice, though, that the so-called less civilized races are actually the only authentically humans. Everyone else are hybrids. Wow. You see how they did reverse psychology? So here they're using Charles Darwin, who's known racist, obviously, because he says never considered the less civilized races to be authentically human. Of course not. This is why psychopaths such as he and everyone else who follow his nonsense theories, right? And why there's so much crazy shit that happens upon planet Earth, negatively. Darwin's belief that some races, such as blacks, were inferior to others became so widely accepted that as Heller continued, the subject of racist inferiority was beyond critical reach in the late 19th century. Although Darwin opposed all form of slavery, he did conclude that one of the strongest I guess you would say one of the reasons behind, you know, him considering this inferiority, all right, is his belief, right? That's his belief. Now, let me get to a real individual here, all right? You have the Punnett square in genetics. And you have big B, big B, big B, little b, big B, and then little b, little b. Big B is dominant. Big B, little b, and little b, big B have dominant traits, dominant trait would be big B, little b, dominant traits. Also recessive trait. Then little b, big B, recessive trait, dominant trait. And then little b, or recessive, weak. All right. This is the father of genetics. All right. The father of genetics did this. All right. The so-called father of genetics, a European Albion at the turn of the 19th century, excuse me, at the 1900s, the 20th century. All right. Proved already that Charles Darwin's information was bullshit by putting together the Punnett square, showing you and demonstrating that the superior upon the place, within the races had there been so-called black people, i.e. the Moors. And we're talking about Moors, meaning coming from the land, the indigenous aboriginal people on land masses. Not just Africa, but also here in the Americas, in Australia, so forth and so on. Theories on prehistory and early man constantly changes as new evidence comes to light. And this is Louis Leakey, British paleoanthropologist who leaked it out in the 1950s that the so-called black man and black woman was the original people upon the planet Earth, the oldest people upon the planet Earth. His son, Richard Leakey, continued to leak more information out even after then. So here we have the reconstruction of Lucy, the skeleton, the Australopithecus, as Dr. Ben refers to it, this should be the African Lopithecus. All right. And we find that the Australopithecus or the African Pithecus likely was the ancient ancestors of the chimpanzee. While our Anthropus, the Rampapus, was likely the ancestor, the ancient ancestor of the gorillas. All right. Chimpanzee and gorillas. So why are they trying to add you into the mix? Because they say that 98% of the chimpanzee has the same DNA as you do as a human being. Even though you have 46 chromosomes and the chimpanzee and the gorilla has 48. If your chromosomes go up to 47, you have retardation. So that's how many a retarded person has, is 47 chromosomes. 47 pairs of chromosomes, 46 pairs of chromosomes, you're a human, coming from 23 pairs or 23 pairs from a male, 23 pairs from a woman. 46 pair chromosome being, 46 chromosomes. So we understand that if it went up 1 to 47, you have retardation. If it went up 48, can you imagine? So when they're saying that we have the same genetic material and we don't have the same chromosome patterns or the amount of chromosomes, then there's a problem. we know that genetic tampering had to have taken place. Had to be reverse engineering, and it had to be cross genetic splicing, DNA splicing that had to have been done. Because as you see here, the Australopithecus is the ancient ancestor of the chimpanzee. And the Paranthropus is the ancient ancestor of the gorillas. All right? The chimpanzee and the gorilla comes from the monkey species, in particular this spider monkey, dating back no more than 40 million years ago. So even this monkey here, which as we showed you earlier, allegedly came from a squirrel-like ancestor 55 million years ago. From the squirrel came by 40 million years ago, 15 million years later, we have a monkey species, which is now, this is a spider monkey. As you see, a spider monkey has a tail. All right. What happened is that the great apes were humanized monkeys. All right. The gods took their DNA, right? Engineered human DNA into this black-headed spider monkey from South America. All right. To produce and create the tailless humanized chimpanzee. A bonobo, all right, or chimpanzee. The great apes are humanized monkeys. Do we have any proof of that? Well, we also have proof that this is a deloid ape, which is a spider monkey man, and didn't have a tail and resembles an orangutan, which roams in Asia. Okay, this has been proven. This is an actual photo. All right. So the comparison of ape and man, we have the resemblance and differences between man and the closest of his living relatives, and the four great apes is shown in the drawings at the table below. The sketches of the body has been drawn to scale and has been depicted here, of all hair removed from the obscured comparison of the contour of the head and the body. You have the gibbons, you have the orangutan, you have the chimpanzee, you have the gorilla and man. Look at the chimpanzee. The name is called a pan-troglodyte. This is the nigger troglodyte that they're talking about, the chimpanzee. Then you have the Pong pygmaeus, all right? The Pongo pygmaeus, which is named after a pygmy, which misnomer is a twa person. So this is where they try to compare all of this at. Then you have man, which is Homo sapien, right? Even more compelling than defendable, all right, are the immense physical gaps between humans and every other human primate. Not just the chimpanzee. As you see here, look at the arms. Structure of the body. All right. In 1911, then famous British anthropologist Sir Arthur Keith quantized all of the anatomical characteristics that set a species of apes apart from the others. He found that the gorillas had 75 unique physiological attributes. Chimpanzee, 109. Orangutans, 113. The gibbons, 116. And humans, 312. Thus, humans have an array of traits that are 3 times more distinct than so-called higher primates. This is surprising because evolution is so loudly trumpet that humans and chimps share 98% of the same DNA, proving that human evolution is not a straight line, but in fact, it is a very twisted branch or bush, complete with interbreeding and retrobreeding. This is what we're talking about. Interbreeding and retrobreeding. And even before that, we're talking about genetic DNA slicing or splicing, excuse me, as well as also reverse engineering. All right. Let's look at a comparison between humans and chimpanzee DNA. This is December 23rd, 2010. It says most people are familiar with the claim that humans and chimpanzees share 99% similarities. Our assertion, however, is that the genetic commonalities between the two primates are closer to 90%. 90%. Right? Chimpanzee Y chromosome identifies nothing in common with humans. So we talked about just now that the gods utilized their DNA to and monkeys' DNA to humanize and create what we now call the ape, chimp, gibbons, as well as also the rest of those so-called I guess you would say animals, or in this case, we don't like to call them that. Anytime you want to call them hominoids, anthropoids, and you have the anthropoids and you have the hominoids. So let's call the hominoids, since everybody wants to make sure that they are included in our legacy, since we already have shown that they are at least 200 times behind, all right, us as far as unique physiological attributes. All right, at least 200. This is a fact. All right, so it says recent sequencing of the chimpanzee Y chromosome identifies no evidence for a common ancestry with humankind. Yet we 95%, I mean 98, 98 to 99% same DNA. So that means that have come from interbreeding with a female chimpanzee X chromosome, because the Y chromosome, which is the male chromosome, has nothing in common with humankind. Since the chimpanzee Y chromosome has been fully sequenced by geneticists and primatologists, the result do not appear to share or support a common human ancestry between humans and chimpanzees. Analysis of the chimpanzee Y chromosome confirms that it is radically different from the human Y chromosome. The chimpanzee Y chromosome has only 2/3 the number of distinct genes in the gene family, 47% of the protein coding region, which compares to a primate human counterpart. Furthermore, more than 30% of the entire chimpanzee Y chromosomes has no counterparts in human beings. The segment to do has counterparts of the human Y chromosome are often looked in different regions of the chimpanzee Y chromosome. According to a few lead researchers, it appears that there have been a dramatic reinvention and check this out now, a dramatic reinvention and renovation of the chimpanzee and the human Y chromosome lineages. See, they're telling you the same thing that we're telling you, that there's been interbreeding and retrobreeding. And before that, genetic splicing, DNA splicing, as well as also reverse engineering. They're telling you the same things. Right? Chimpanzee has A blood type, gorillas have B blood types. Right? The AB blood type is found within the orangutan. All right, the O blood type is also found in the chimpanzee and the gorilla. This is why they claim, and there's no Rh negative blood. This is the reason why they tell you that, well, the Rh negative blood, this is more so from the reptilians, and the Rh positive blood is more so from the apes. Well, let's get to that. Let's get into that information. If the theory of evolution was true, we have millions of these hominins, humans, and we have millions of these monkeys, apes, chimps. But so where are the millions of these at in the between species? Well, we've showed you some of them, but let's go into the book. Everything you know is wrong. Professor Lord Pye said that this translation would take 20 to 30 changes, and this happened overnight. So this transition here, as you see to the left, the evolution of the human story, which is bullshit, a lie, and what you see here to the right, or these missing millions of these between species. What we find out is that that would have took 20 to 30 changes to happen. But this transition happened basically overnight. For example, if you look at the cerebral cortex of animals, such as a rat, is about, let's say, a postal stamp. Monkey is a postcard. Chimpanzee is about one sheet. Typing paper. Humans equals 4 sheets typing paper, but only a half of one sheet is being used in the cerebral cortex. Somebody and something is stifling your creativity, your holistic mental powers. This is why we speak of the fact that so-called women only use about 2 to 10% of their brain. The other 90 to 98% goes unused. And when we're talking about that, we're talking about during the same time. All right, so no macro evolution is ever taking place. None. He verifies this in his book. Everything you know is wrong. Human origin. Right? That leaves us with microevolution. The simple modifications of size and shape of a beak, or etc., but not the change it from gills to wings, or for that matter, even the change of bacterium. Bacteria mutates but does not alter from being a parasite to finding food for themselves. They have remained essentially the same for billions of years. Only microevolution takes place. So jumping from this to 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 this. Sorry, only way that could have happened was if someone genetically tampered with the DNA. Because as Lord Pye said, it would have took 20 to 30 changes for that shit to happen. And this here happened basically overnight. Get from all it is, right? All it is to this, to the right. All right? See, this is why we have to explain all of this. So RH stands for rhesus monkey factor. And the rhesus is a very small monkey from India and miraculously has managed to get his little DNA directly into 93% of all living humans on the planet Earth. So that means only 7% of the people on the planet Earth have RH negative. The other 93% of all humans on Earth has RH positive, allegedly from the rhesus monkey factor. Let's see why. Well, you go to the Theosophical Teachings of Madame Blavatsky, and you go to the Daily Theosophy quotes, it says the apes were produced by man himself. Sunday 1st, September 2013. The apes was produced by man himself? I thought I was crazy. No, this is another secret society telling you the same shit that I've been telling you all along. And we did not come from apes. Originally, we was the Netchers, the Elohims, the gods, and we produce nearly all beings and creatures upon this planet Earth by genetically enhancement or manipulation. The burning question of the anthropoid apes as related to man is settled by the masters of wisdom, who say that instead of those being our progenitors, they were produced by man himself. In one of the early periods of the globe, the men of the time begat from large females of the animal kingdom, the anthropoids. And in the anthropoid bodies was carried a certain number of egos destined one day to be men. The remainders of the descendants of true anthropoids, as the descendants of these illegitimate children of men, all right, and will die away gradually. These egos enter human bodies. Those half apes and half man bodies could not be, all right, ensouled by strictly animal ego. And for this reason, they are known to the secret doctrine as the delayed race. The only one not included in the fiat of nature that no more egos from lower kingdoms will come into the human kingdom until the next Manvantara. But to all kingdoms below man, except the anthropoid, the door is now closed for entrant into the human stage, and the ego in the subordinate forms must all wait their turn in the succeeding great cycle. Now, what is these egos that they talking about? Well, the ancient speaks of a planet that once existed between Jupiter and Mars. It was called Modak or Modic. And Modic had a moon called Melona. And allegedly, activities such as atomic blasts, nuclear war / began, and they ended up blowing themselves up. Similar to the same story that you study about Superman, about his planet Krypton blowing up. Well, parts of what is now called Modic and Melona became the asteroid belt, which exists between the planet Mars and Jupiter. The destruction on Mars caused the people to have to leave Mars, all right, as we talked about earlier, yesterday, in fact, right, had them to leave Mars, and we know how they left, all right, they left in macabres. This is what was told to us by Khadirah Mutwa, South African shaman, right? This is what was told to us. All right. You can find the information right here, right? Zulu claims Earth as their 7th world. In their 6th world, the planet Mars, the forerunner of Zulu, and all southern African tribes were severely threatened by a powerful foe from another world and saw that the chance of saving themselves was slim indeed. They proceeded to prepare their weapons and then went one step further in an attempt to save the race. The pharaohs of all. Now, what happened? What was they trying to prepare their weapons against? From this explosion that took place between Jupiter and Mars of Modic and Melona, this implosion or explosion rather, which created the asteroid belt, also ended up, the winds from that ended up wiping off the beings that lived on the surface of the planet Mars. So they had to come here. They had to prepare their weapons, all right, to hold it off. The fairest of all their women were impregnated by the menfolk, and they was placed in a circular flying vehicle, each with 3 wheels. These space vehicles was known throughout Central and Southern Africa as the Macabre or the Merkaba. The Merkaba or the Macabre was sent off course to Earth, just like the story of Krypton to the planet Earth. And his name, and he was from the L line. The Moors use L to this day. Thus, where the women transported safely on this planet, they gave birth to their offspring and continued the race. This is from the Bone Oracle of Ulafudu, from the Zulu Bone Oracle, all right? And this was actually stated by Credo Mutwa, Africa's hidden history. Now, do we have any proof that we once existed on Mars? Hell yes. Scientists tell you that they discovered human circadian rhythm is set to the solar daylight cycle on Mars. That's how we know. All right, that we came from Mars. And we are the Martians. All right, here we have the face on Mars, the pyramids on Mars, etc., etc. All right, you hear these are the Botswana people, the ostrich people from Mars in Africa. They came from there also. Right? This is what we're talking about. Being able to prove everything we say. We're not playing. Right? We are destroying all the lies and showing you how all of this took place. Right? So the apes were produced by man himself. Right? But to all kingdoms below man except the anthropoid door is closed now. It's closed. Right? So and the delayed ego of the anthropoid family will emerge in the man's stage later on. So see, these egos were the beings, the spirits from the planet Moldic that blew this shit up. So they needed bodies to inhibit. So the ancients, right, the ancient ones, began to produce bodies for them, i.e., the monkeys, or in this sense, the chimps, the bonobo, the orangutan, the gorillas. They're part of that delayed ego. All right? Because that was their part that they had to play because of the destruction of their planet and because of the destruction of Mars. Some beings did stay on Mars, they went underground. But those that got off the surface are those in which now is within the South African race, which is South African people, which is now known as the Amazulu. The word Amazulu means sky people. That's what it means. Right? You see how we explain everything? This is the beautifulness of research and study. So these beings, these gorillas, chimps, you know, they will one day become man, all right? Emerge in the man stage later on, all right? They will thus be rewarded for the long wait in this degenerated race. All the other monkeys are products in the ordinary manner of the evolutionary process. So when we showed you the spider monkey, so forth and so on, and then the DNA of the gods was crossbreeded with that to produce the chimp and the bonobo monkey or chimp, you know, as well as also we get later on the updated version, which is the gorilla, you know, or downgraded version of the gorilla. I don't know which one you want to say because of, you know, talking about as far as in stature, they was upgraded in that sense because they are larger than the average size chimp, even though they are giant chimps that have been found. All right, they are giant chimps, which have been found, which is not the same size as apes, but they are fairly big as the ape. All right, so this is what we're talking about. So on this subject, I cannot do better than quote the words of one of those masters of wisdom, given the esoteric anthropology from the secret volumes. This is what it says, right? The anatomical resemblance between man and the higher apes, so frequently cited by Darwinists, because he did it on similarities, as pointing to some former ancestor common to both, presents an interesting problem. The proper solution in which is to be sought is from a esoteric explanation of the genesis of the Plesiosaurian stock. We have given it so far as was useful by stating that the bestiality of the primeval mindless race. This is what they was called, the mindless race or mindless races, resulted in the production of huge man-like monsters, the offsprings of humans and animal parents. All right, you have the same nonsense going on today. Bestiality. All right. My wife was showing me a video of this white girl, and she was soliciting out to the public and other white women that have sex with their dogs, for the dogs to lick their coochie and stick them, you know. And she was giving them advice on, if you want the dog to lick your coochie, put some peanut butter down there. Right?
Asking her.
They was asking her questions. They was actually calling and asking her what to do about what's the best way to get the dog to lick the coochie. All right. See, this is because of the DNA manipulation, that you even have a sexual draw to another animal because of more animalistic DNA, which is Neanderthal genes and Denisovan genes, which the Denisovan has 17% DNA of the Neanderthal. So they're part Neanderthals too. Okay. So really, the European is so happy about being a Neanderthal, about his 1 to 10% genetic trace of the Neanderthal, when the Denisovan had 17%. So truthfully, could he be closer to the Denisovan in that terms? Or what is the other remaining 83% of the Denisovan? Right, we going into that because all of that goes back to the mixing of all of these breeds of animals genetically being manipulated, DNA gene slicing or splicing. All right, right here it says, once again, mindless races resulted in the production of huge man-like monsters, the offsprings of humans and animal parents. Once again, the offsprings of humans and animal parents. Once again, the offsprings of humans and animal parents. As time rolled on, the still semi-astral form consolidated into the physical. The descendants of these creatures were modified by external conditions until the breed, dwindling in size, culminated in the lower apes of the Meso period. With these, the latter Atlanteans renewed the sins of the mindless ones, this time with full responsibility. The results or the resultants of their crimes were the species now known as the anthropoids. In other words, they told you that the Atlanteans, who are the Lemurians / Egyptians, all of them are the same people, that they created the anthropoids. Let us remember the esoteric teachings, which tells us of man having had in the third round a gigantic ape-like form. What is that gigantic ape-like form that they keep talking about? That is the form that we now call Sasquatch. On the astral plane, which is actually very similar to the Neanderthal. A similarity of the close of the third race in this round. Thus, it is accounted for the human features of the apes, especially of the latter anthropoids. All right. Apart from the fact that these later preserve by heredity a resemblance to their Atlantean, Lemurian sires. Why do they have a preserved hereditary resemblance? Because these Atlantean, Lemurian Egyptians used their own DNA to humanize the monkeys into what we now call the chimps, babono, and the ape species, and the orangutan. the anthropoids slash ape species. This is what you have. This is it. This is them tampering with DNA. The gods did their thing. The Australopithecus robustus, the Zinjanthropus, the Homo habilis, Homo rudolphus, Rudolph Hannis, the Homo ergaster, the Homo erectus. All of these were once again updated. And all of these creatures had to inhabit, they was inhabited by the Modekian spirits, these egos that was just spoke about in the Theosophical Society's information, secret society's information. Europeans are closer to Neanderthals than Africans. So we just finished seeing that the Europeans are closer, 2/3 that of Asians and only 1/3 of Africans. So that means that them and the Asians are closer to Neanderthals slash the Denisovan than they are Africans. And this is the reason why for the dissension between so-called blacks and so-called whites, because they have that Neanderthal, the DNA in them. And the Asians have Neanderthal and Denisovan within them. Ancient DNA in humans is due to species interbreeding after man left Africa. Breeding with the Neanderthals has long been known to have left its traces in the DNA of modern Europeans. Now scientists in Engelberg has confirmed that the genetic similarity between the two must have arisen after interbreeding in Europe and Asia. They believe 2% of the Neanderthal DNA which existed in people today came from the mating outside of Africa. Okay. 500,000 years ago, in 1961, Rock Hound finds a geoid in a western US desert. Inside is a device that looked like a capacitor or spark plug. The age was unofficially dated at 500,000 years old. So here somebody has spark plugs. That means that they must have an engine. That means that something was running. This was called the Casso artifact. Also the Casso artifact with picture. The object inside the rock seemed to have been made of white porcelain with a center shaft of shiny metal and a hexagonal casing, and a X-ray revealed a tiny spring at the end. Experts estimated that it should have taken about 500,000 years for this fossil encrusted nodule to form. This is what they're telling you. 400,000 years ago, we have the human Dinosaur ancestors' bones found in Cima de los Jesus cave in the Spanish Antapuro-Ca mountains, and that the cave hosts more than 600,000 ancient bone samples belonging to 28 ancient humans that lived roughly 400,000 years ago. The bones of the Cima people shares the features of Neanderthals, because they 17% Neanderthals. Notably, their thick brow, skull, as well as the features of a much older group of human ancestors called Homo, check this out now, and a much older group of human humans now, ancestors called Homo heidelbergensis, which lived about 600,000 years ago. Remember, we told you that these are the ones in which that the pygmies mixed in with 600,000 years ago. Originally thought that the European Neanderthals, however, tested revealed maternally mitochondrial DNA found in the fossils' thigh bones uncovered a Spain's Cima de los Jesus cave showed that the Semitic people were genetically closer to the Siberian Denisovan than Neanderthals. Neanderthals and the Denisovan arose hundreds of thousands of years before moderate-looking humans spread it across worldwide from Africa. Lie. More than 60,000 years ago. The small traces of their genes now found in modern humans are signs of interbreeding amongst ancient human groups. Carl Gruber of National Geographic in 2013 points out that new tests on human bones hidden in the Spanish caves from some 400,000 years sets a new record for the oldest human DNA sequence ever decoded and may scramble the scientific picture of our early relatives. Well, I just scrambled all of that shit up already. This been scrambled, right? 400,000 years ago. In 1982, Rebecca Kane and Alan Wilson, who published the original Out of Africa theory, carried out 112 mitochondrial DNA tests on Australian indigenous people, including 12 full descent Aborigines. They discovered that the Aborigines, Australians, arose 400,000 years ago from two distinct lineages, and they set out their they set aside the out of Africa hypothesis. But guess what? They did come from out of there. These scientific findings were absolutely changed. The traditional outlook of the species has been completely ignored by all academia. No, it ain't been ignored, because what they found out that they came from the Denisovan. In fact, they are the Denisovan. The remnants of them, all right? And the Denisovan has 17% Neanderthal genes. Human skull found in Iran 140,000 years ago. So from this, we get the original Aboriginals, Australians, the original Australians, the original Asians, the original people of Latin American descent, the original Filipinos, the original Indians, the original people of India. We find all of them, all right? And remember now, there are no Rh negative in monkeys. And 93% of humans have Rh positive, just like the monkeys, who share the same blood types, A, B, AB, and O. There are 612 primate species and subspecies recognized by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, and not one has Rh negative blood. But guess what? Not one has Duffy blood, negative blood. Not one has U negative blood. None of that. All right. Also, we find, remember, the chimp doesn't have a Y chromosome related to humans. Well, just because the African Americans Y chromosome spark shifts in the evolutionary timetable. The father of all men is 340,000 years old and more. All right. Black genes prove that the first humans are at least 70% older than previously estimated. Right? After one African man, and this African man now, they say an African man, but guess where he lived at? He lived in South Carolina. Right? But Albert Perry passed away. Researchers discovered a unique, distinct Y chromosome. While all humans had previously been traced back to one common ancestor referred to as Adam, DNA technicians traced Perry's lineage to a much earlier time. It means that Perry's and others with this same unique or distinct Y chromosome found in the small area of Cameroon, Africa, actually are not descendants of Adam. They originally pushes the dawn of humanity back 140,000 to 338,000 years ago, or 70% earlier than previously estimated, according to the study. Right? Proving once again that life began in Africa from African people. Therefore, you still cannot get the origin of the Aborigines, of the albinos, and all right, and the Albions and the Asians without the African. Thus, scientists state that Africans are the origin of the human race and those that came from them afterwards are hybrids. However, there are some, said historians, scholars, anthropologists, archaeologists, scientists, biologists, biophysicists, and etc., that will do everything they can to disprove the same race connections. The same current establishment wants to keep racism going. Strategy of the said Illuminati, divide and conquer. Right? That was in the Atlanta Black Star. All right. So this coin-like object from a well boring near Long Ridge, Illinois, was reported found at a depth of about 114 feet below the surface, 1881 by Winchell, page 170. According to information supplied by the Illinois State Geological Survey, the deposit contained the coin are between 200,000 to 400,000 years old. This is from Forbidden Archaeology, page 801. What do we mean by that? Come on now. That's powerful. That is powerful. We was using money, coins, 200 to 400,000 years ago. So this is not a system in which that the Albion set up. Neither is this 140,000-year-old UFO discovered in the Baltic Sea anomaly. And you still don't believe in UFOs? Myths or facts? Text confirms that the elder gods, or the Anunnaki, because remember, we're talking about the ancient gods, right? We know who the ancient gods are. The ancient gods are the Syrian beings. The elder gods are the Anunnakians, who were in fact not the first gods, and that a race is known as the Ancient Ones predated the arrival of the elder gods. Remember, this is supposed to be the return of the Ancient Ones. All right, I got that in my song. The Empress got that on the book. That's her book, Return of the Ancient Ones. My song is called Return of the Ancient Ones, the Moorish Naggers, the Dragon Riders, Breathing Fire, Generator, Operator, Destroyer, a Self-Lord, a Master. All right, so that's what we're talking about. All right, so right here, the Ancient Ones predated the arrival of the elder gods, Anunnakis. The Ancient Ones had come from the stars many eons earlier, as I showed you. And they later, had established an extremely advanced civilization or culture. Right, the Anunnakis, although initially accepted and very technically advanced themselves, subsequently caused immense problems, and a war broke out between the Ancient Ones and the elder gods. Right? It seems that there was no small battle. Indeed, it changed the entire face of the earth and irrevocably altered the course of life thereon. The text goes on to say that the elder gods, or the Anunnakis, produced and created mankind as a slave workforce. So not only did the Syrian beings continue doing the genetic re-engineering and slicing because of what took place allegedly over 24 million years ago because of the destruction of Modic and Malona that blew up, in which that formed our asteroid belt to now, today. All right. So we understand that this is what happened. The Anunnakians, on the other hand, wanted to produce and create a mankind as a slave race, a workforce. All right. Two different reasons. So now, creation of the Homo sapiens humans, this is according to two perspectives on the creation of humans, Homo sapiens. This is by particularly by Zachariah Sitchin. You can get his book, The 12th Planet, The Stairway to Heaven, The Wars of Gods and Men, The Lost Realms, When Time Began, Genesis Revisited. That Genesis Revisited ain't no joke. Also the 12th Planet. But the wars of gods, the man tells you about what we talked about earlier today about the nuclear war that took place. This is why you have the area now known as the Dead Sea. And the reason why no fish can live in the Dead Sea is because of the overabundance of salt that's there. Salt neutralizes, because of the iodine factor, neutralizes radiation. Right? You have the divine encounters. You have the cosmic codes. Right? Get these books. All right, from Zechariah Ascension. All right, it's necessary to have in your library. You don't have to agree with everything. I don't agree with everything. This is why I do what I do. I put the pieces of the puzzle together, but you use the information when you can to solidify your position and your thought, your facts, to form your truths so that it makes sense to you and it helps to make sense to others. All right. So here, Homo erectus, 30,000 BC, little difference. And it says artificial means of genetic manipulation. Right, so we know that according to Zechariah Ascension and many of his constituents, they state that man definitely was genetically manipulated. All right. We know that, right? That it was genetic manipulation going on. All right, so, and I'm saying man, but to get man as Homo sapien as he is now was the purpose. All right. Here you have Neanderthal, Adamu. All right. This is how Zechariah Ascension breaks it down. Then you have the great difference, natural means of miscegenation, which is sexual mating. And then you have the Cro-Magnon, the demigods thus became us equals humans, Homo sapiens. All right. Humans, Homo sapiens. Now, according to Lord Pi, I go along with his information a little bit better because he breaks down Homo erectus, microevolution, slight change, 300,000 BC, Neanderthal, dramatic upgrade, genetic manipulation from the Neanderthal, all right, Cro-Magnon, Adamu, made it with the Anunnakis, produced the demigods, who made it hominoids, wild Cro-Magnon, and or manufactured Cro-Magnon to beget humans, Homo sapiens. All right. Right, 90,000 BC, Cro-Magnons in caves as the Ice Age begins. 30,000 BC, Neanderthals in caves as Ice Age peaks. Right, hominoids, all mass, captors, more human-like versions, humanize Neanderthals. So you see, this is how they kept utilizing the Neanderthals after they produced the Cro-Magnon. That means the Cro-Magnon had to have some type of aspects of Neanderthal, all right? And then, of course, they kept upgrading, became more humanized Neanderthals, in which that you finally get the Albion or European that we see today, all right? Here's another thing. South Africa has a Ankh symbol dated 200,000 years ago, as you see here. So the Ankh came from out of South Africa among the Bantu people. All right. Here you have ancient Anunnaki cities of Africa 200,000 years ago. Temples were set up as templates, computer templates, gigantic or giant energy circuits. motherboards, computer parts, and there was more than 10,000 ruins, or 10 million ruins, excuse me, of Anunnaki cities dating over 200,000 years ago. All right. And from there, making and utilizing, all right, of these various DNAs, the different species began to spread out from out of the interior of Africa 130,000 years ago to 35,000 years ago, or more, to 50,000 years ago, to Australia 40,000 years ago, to as you see here, going across the Bering Strait 25 to 20,000 years ago, down into South America, excuse me, Central America 15,000 years ago, and then into South America 17,000 to 13,000 years ago. All of that is showing you. Of course, you add 2,000 years onto each one to give you a more accurate date, as we know that the years came down to came from down into zero as the date that they give to the birth of Jesus. And then they started from then going up to now 2018. All right. So we overstand, and overstand only by arrogance and ignorance does man believe that he's alone in the cosmos. The time for a Big Bang until the formation of our sun was about 9.1 billion years, just about twice that of 4.6 billion years it took for the Earth to evolve to present day, which the Earth is the baby of the sun. All right, as all the planets are babies of the sun, as the sun itself was formed from an implosion of Sirius B. So we actually are Sirius B kids, grandchildren, and children. The sun is her daughter or son, and as we would call Sirius B, all right, which is part of Isis or Set, and her son, Heru, Horus, our son, all right. And then, of course, his feminine half would be Heru, all right, and, produce her children, which are the planets, i.e. the Earth. But it's here, it says, what kinds of evolution can be happening elsewhere during more than 4 billion years before our sun even formed? Then add to that 4.6 billion years minus 200,000 years to reach the dawn of man as we know it. Lots of time for several early technological civilizations to colonize the galaxy. The conclusion of this exercise is that realize that ETs may be more than a few thousands of years ahead of us technologically. They may be billions of years ahead of us. All right, they are probably more than 100 billion or 10 to 11 powers galaxies in the observable universe. The latest estimate by the leading astrophysicists is that there are 2 trillion galaxies in this universe. Typical galaxies ranging from dwarfs even to few as 10 million 10^7 stars, right, or 10 to the 7th power, up to giants with 1 trillion 10 to the 12th power stars, all orbiting the galactic center of mass. All right. A 2010 study by astronomers estimated that the observable universe contains 300 sextillion stars, 3 times 10^23. Just how many is that? That's of course 3 with 23 circles or zeros behind it. All right. So you still believe that we are the only intelligent beings in the whole of our observable cosmos universe? So are we alone in the universe? Obviously not. But here's ancient Egypt, which they showed you various crafts. As you see, this is right on in Abydos in the Seti temple, Seti One's temple. Right there on the upper beam, you would see helicopters, what looks like Star Wars craft, what looks like a submarine slash craft, maybe a space shuttle. And look, all of these was taken from Star Wars. Star Wars took all of this shit. All right. Right. All of this is taken in Star Wars. Star Wars has these. As you see, that's the hovercraft right there at the bottom, right. All of that. Right. Ancient Egypt, they actually flew this. It was in Saqqara, near Saqqara, and they actually flew it, and they said that it actually has aerodynamics, aerophysics. 13,000 years ago, we had Indian countries, Arama existed. Remains of their large cities still in existence in the desert of India and Pakistan, the Mohenjo-daro. Indian text from this period tells of an anti-gravity spaceship called Vimanas or Astras, as in astro, as in astral plane. Some ancient Indian texts describe a war with Atlantis, who flew Beliax's machines, using flying machines and atomic bombs about 10,000 to 12,000 years ago. So this is the first time that they destroyed life on the planet. When the richest city of Mohenjo-daro, Pakistan, was excavated by archaeologists in the last century, they found skeletons just lying in the street. Some of them holding hands as if as a great doom suddenly overtook them. These skeletons are among the most radiated ever found, on par, all right, with those found at the Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This is what we was talking about earlier. Ancient cities with bricks and stones had literally been verified, that is fused together like glass, and can be found in India, Ireland, Scotland, France, Turkey, and other places. This is a synopsis of chapter 1, writing on the Vermanas. These are flying machines of the ancients. This is by David Hatcher Childress. Get his book. In his sutras, one described for us the nature of a Vamanas. It says, owing the similarities of speed with the bird, it is called a Vamana. The Vamana is a vehicle that flies in the sky with speeds comparable with birds. That which flies in the sky equal with speed equal to that of birds is called a Vamana. That which flies, that speed of earth, check this out, that which can speed on earth, on water, through air, by its own power, like a bird, is a Vamana. That which flies through air from one place to another is a Vamana. That which flies through air from one country to another, from one island to another island, and from one world to another world is a Vamana. All right, so you can go from one world to another world. That was called a Vamana. All right. Here we have the Kumbaya, right? The Kimbanya. This is an artifact of some of the most famous artifacts ever found in Colombia. All right, this is South America, and the dozens of little gold items. These was left by the Kimbaya people. But the most mysterious part of it is that these are little mini planes. Many believe that these little figurines are proof that the tribe had mastered flight, or at least knew of how it could be done. So here we have ancient astronauts. This is shown to us, all right? Pre-Columbian figurines. This is in Mexico. Artifacts, Jolos, Jalisco, Mexico, 2014. Ancient Aliens Discovery. It was on Ancient Discovery. This is December 2015 in Ancient Aliens. All right. The individual there to the left that's behind the face that's being shown look like Zachariah Essential. So this actually had to be before 2015, if I'm not mistaken. So here we have shapeshifters, all right, because we know that within the cultures of the indigenous people, they speak of shapeshifting, but not just reptilians. They speak of also shapeshifting into animals, other animals such as wolves, coyotes, birds, etc., etc. So shapeshifters is not just equivalent to reptilians. There are many different species, races, and life forms involved and active in the deception of humanity. Some are using holographic cloaking, masking technology. So far, we can affirm that the involvement of 8 species, 1 artificial intelligence, and 1 artificial biological life form. Those are reptilians, insectoids, arachnoids, crustacean crabs, felines, cat and wolves, androids, artificial humans, clones, organic portals, fishtoids, and amphibians and carrions, which is birds. All right. All right. So shapeshifters and hybrids. Definition differs in similarities. It says these shapeshifters are pure breeds of different races that use several methods to disguise as humans. Right. This is the category 1, which is physical entities. Category 2, non-physical entities. These are entities that reside in higher dimensions and have the ability to project themselves in this physical environment from likely limited amount of time. They are advanced enough to appear in whatever form they want as humanoids or animals. Then you have category 3, non-physical entities attached to physical entities, which is these are entities that have the ability to possess physical beings and control their actions. Hybrids are crossbreeds between pure breeds and several different species and Earth humans. Their differences are completely human, with one difference. They have different eyes and use holographic technology to hide this. Their neurology is different from Earth humans. Their nature is, according to human definition, psychopathy. Why? Because all their emotions are acted. They have no empathy, no remorse. They feel contempt towards humans. Their alignment is with Draken and other species, not humankind. Right? They're mainly concentrated on the anomalies in the eyes of the shapeshifters. Since this is the location where shape-shifting, masking always happen, is always observable, which is logical since the eyes is the most complex organ regarding movement, and it is called and also the eyes are the windows to the soul. The face includes the neck, the teeth, ears, and the next part to focus on. Also reliable are the shape-shifting individual's hand, which are a second part of the body that should receive attention. Arms as well as legs often shapeshift, but not always visible. Shapeshiftings of upper bodies is the most difficult to reveal. The viewer to have often advanced knowledge of the anatomy or high visual intelligence to correctly interpret body movement. There are several movies that nearly document describe the situation on Earth. These movies are the Matrix trilogy, Dark City, The Island of Monroe, and They Live. In the tutorial, when you focus on They Live, which is 1988 American sci-fi horror director John Carpenter, in this movie, intruders had infiltrated all the high positions of society. They are the top politicians, the top news readers, top actors, etc. This is the actual situation on Earth. All top positions are inherited by shapeshifters, actors, industrialists, comedians, pharmacists, news readers, university deans, economists, politicians, etc. There are also shapeshifters who are in low positions. This is because the shapeshifters want to control every level in aspects of society. This is John Carpenter's own words. Get the movie Dark City. In there, John Murdoch or Marduk, all right, who symbolizes hero. Hence, you see him shooting waves of beams from his third eye. He seeks to unravel the untwisted riddle of his identity, and as he edged closer to solving the mystery, he stumbles upon a fiendish underworld controlled by a group of omnious beings collectively known as the Strangers. Right? Rufus Sewell is the one who plays John Murdoch, but you have Keith Sutherland, Jennifer Connelly, and William Hurts in here. Right? This is Roddy Piper, all right, who died after coming on to Alex Jones' show talking about the reptilian. And this is what he tweeted before he died. They Live is a documentary. This is what he says, that this is a documentary. Right? This is what he says. All right. Now, let's look at something right quick, because I know it'd be hard for people to understand a lot of this information, but you know, I don't understand why. Not complex, you know what I'm saying? But many believe that it is. All right, let's look at the president, the former president of the United States, Barack Hussein Obama. All right, as he's on The View, and he talking about the reptilian or the reptilian portion of the brain. All right, and I'll tell you what he's saying, just in case if you can't hear it. But you can go and look up Obama speaks about reptilians, right? And he's on The View. I actually saw. Whoopi is asking him, what are we? Who are we? Obama says we are American. We share common hopes, common dreams, common aspirations. We're going through common struggles. The fact of the matter is that everybody here is representative of the country, is connected in some fashion. And our success and our children's success is tied up together. I think most Americans feel that way, but what is still true, there still is a reptilian side of our brain, that part of our brain that if somebody look different, sound different, there's a part of us that is standoffish. And what we have to do is fight against the reptilian brain. And he's saying that this is an exercise that we all need to work on because there's a constant struggle to go beyond the reptilian brain. They have to think about their own racial attitudes. And there's no reason that we can't overcome it. All right, so he talked about the reptilian portion of the brain. All right. This is what he's talking about. This is why you got to go and do the research. The president of the United States of America, Barack Hussein Obama, spoke about the reptilian portion of the brain on The View and told you that that is the part of the brain which, if we see someone different, is standoffish. We automatically go into fight or flight, survival mode, greed, lust, envy, jealousy. This is how you know somebody is operating at the lowest self, and we have to fight against that. This is what he was saying. This is what the Venezuelan guy said, all right? And this is what he said, right? If you don't know, this is Hugo Chavez. A human man, he said, they asked him, how do you want to be remembered? He said, as a human man, because there are human beings who have no human shape, but are not, who have no human shape, but are not human. That's what he was saying. He said, but I am human. And what he mean by that is that he has feelings. He has a soul. Right? You have a problem with this information, go get The Biggest Secret by David Icke. Go and listen to his reporting that he did with Arizona Wilder on shape-shifting reptilians. When this area is illuminated in the brain, many things can take place. You can get inhibited by spirits, egos. Remember, we told you earlier that that's what the bodies of these ape species or these ape-like species was made for, was to be inhibited by the Meldekians because they fucked up their world. And we was gonna let them come here and just possess us. So we created bodies for them to go in for a certain period of time. Wilder stated the blood and menstrual blood is imperative for reptilians to shift. The blood helps them maintain their reptilian shape while helping them to live in a world they're not from. Well, they are from. They're not from the surface. They are from beneath in the earth. Dr. Deborah Blair told us that the earth is honeycombed. There's many caves and caverns in the earth. There are underworlds. You have Shambhala and Agatha. Dr. Malachi York taught us about that years ago, back in the 80s and 90s. All right. The blood helped them to maintain their reptilian shape while helping them to live in a world they're not from. One thing Wilder added is the blood needs to be from terrorized victims. Why terrorized victims? Because the adrenal glands produce what is called adrenosome. And this adrenosome crystallizes, in which that give you a rush. This shit is damn better than Viagra. This shit is better than melatonin. This shit is better than all of that shit. At least that's what we heard. See, this is the thing that the devils do. They may help to explain the vast number of child abductions throughout the years, of course. More than 300,000 children are missing every year. Most are part of an underground black market sex ring. Some are being used as human sacrifices. According to Wilder, there's changes going on in the earth that seems they're not able to hold their form like they once were able to, and people see them shape shifting more and more, and they need the blood to try and maintain to hold it. I believe that there is time coming, because of what I've seen, what I've been told, when there is not going to bother having to hold the human form as they had before. They want the time, and they want that time to come. All right. This is what it said in the video. You can go back and watch it. Even the granddaughter of Dwight Eisenhower, Laura Eisenhower, she says that the reptilian invasion has already begun or already occurred. Michael Jackson shows you this in the movie Thriller as he does the eyes. But this is real here. You can actually get the porno flick with this black chick and her eyes go slit. That's a rhyme. That's old school right there. But this is the porno flick when this chick eyes go slit. All right? Telling you. This is a sister. Now eyes go slit as you see. Right? So here we have entertainers, as we just talked about, actors, politicians. All of them, all these individual eyes go slit. All right? Some so-called black, some so-called white. What it is that these lower astral entities from the first and second overtone level of the astral plane may be said to be demons. I don't like to use the word demon because the word demon comes from team on, which is a form of atum. But in other words, entities or spirits that have their own agenda, they can attach themselves to a person's auric field, especially to the first and second chakra. The first and second chakra, which is based on lust and greed, are controlled by the reptilian portion of the brain. This is the oldest brain portion, but deals specifically with fight or flight or survival mechanisms. Hence the reason why what we just finished hearing Barack Hussein Obama speak about, former president speak about the reptilian brain. This is what we're dealing with. It can be positive or negative. However, in this case, these entities, spirits attach themselves to aspects of the lower self. The lower self is taught to us by Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Moorish Questionnaire 101 states 66 that what is the devil sometimes called? The lower self. Question 74, what does the lower self breed? Hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harms. In other words, possession by entities, spirits of the lower chakras gives an individual the propensity to do evil, promote death, the opposite of life, which is live. The old folks saying is that eyes are the windows to the soul. It has the truest meaning when dealing with these individuals because the eyes changes to slits based on the reptilian brain activity. Now I've taught that the spirit is breath and vice versa. However, to remove these lower spirit attachments, learn how to master the breath and gain angelic high self-attachments, higher self-attachments. All right, this is what I say. So this is me breaking this information down, particularly, and this is what we have to come to the conclusion on, that this is going on. Practically speaking, everyone you see in mainstream media is a reptilian shapeshifter. News people, politicians, actors, musicians, professional athletes, entertainers of every kind at the lower level brotherhood agents populate forums and other social sites to monitor and guide public opinion, discussions pretending to be regular people like you. It's their job to keep you distracted, programmed, and inside your cage in prison. Remember, this is a prison planet. Imprison you inside your own mind. They've built this reality around you through deception and illusion of choice. Nations, politics, religions, education, economics, wars, technological progress, all of these things are brotherhood, draconian fabrications, facades, which conceals the mechanisms of human enslavement. Everything they do is completely staged, rigged from beginning to end. Even the weather and many natural disasters are generated now through artificial means, technology. All right? This is what is going on. They are called the demiurge, or they have connection to the archons, which has no creation and creative imagination and envy of humans. Like cyborgs or robotic races, they can imitate but not innovate. So they can counter mimicry, right? They love to mimic because they can't be the authentic. Fantasia, mind parasites, deception, inversion, right? Get the book, The Biggest Secret, the book that will change the world, David Icke, and no doubt about it, he has changed the world with this information, all right? I don't agree with everything he's saying in there, but it has some weight, all right? Because me, I see the Kundalini as that reptilian serpentine fire in which that we need to illuminate. But as above, so below, as within, so without. Remember, that is the supreme axiom. So if you have an internal reptilian force or brain, then you must have an external reptilian aspect. You have a lower self, then you must have a external aspect of the lower self. The Albion symbolizes that lower self exhibiting the human form. Ephesians 2:1-3, and you were dead in the trespasses of your sins in which that you was once walked. Follow the course of this world. Follow the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that is now at work in the sons of disobedience. So basically they're saying that the prince of the power of the air is what we refer to as the demiurge or archons. These are ones in which that can become overshadowed, right? Illustration by Clave Burrow, The Isles of Rights, artists of what people see when humans shapeshift into reptilians. This is particularly common among world leaders in political, banking, business, the military, and so on. More Clive Burrow portrayals of reptilians overshadowing a human while not actually occupying the body. Burrow produces these illustrations from depictions by one of the countless people that I've met who see the reptilians on the lower fourth dimension. They appear to attach to humans by two of the lowest chakras. Remember, this is controlled by the reptilian portion of the brain. Right? This is shown to us on the TV show when Barack Obama came into position as the president in 2008. The show was canceled. Wonder why? But here it is. It says, we are of peace always. This is what she used to say. But yet, look at the eyes. The eyes are reptilian, right? Possession. Possession is when a spirit or soul hijacks the body and takes over the function and control of the body. The person who is possessed will not be consciously present and usually have no memory of the possession or of the action that happens while possessed. Now, years ago, we had FBI agents to come to Fairfield State University. I was the junior class president at the time. So we got a chance to find out some of the FBI information that was going on. And this actually came through Ted Gunderson, all right? A man who had over 28 years experience with the FBI, told a mind control conference in the United States that after long and detailed research, he estimated that 3.75 million practicing Satanists in the United States and between 50 and 60,000 human sacrifices a year. As I told you, the 300,000, all the 300,000s are not human sacrifice. But as you see here, 50 to 60,000 humans are sacrificed a year. Now you can actually look up Finkelstein, Rabbi Finkelstein on YouTube. All right. And he's the rabbi who eats children. All right. And on this, he speaks of the fact that they drink the blood during their rituals of their holidays, but they don't eat the meat because they claim that they're not cannibalistic. They give McDonald's the meat, the human meat, and they grind it up. And he says that we're eating our children when you go to McDoodle or McDonald's. All right. This is what he's saying. So therapists at the conference said that their clients have pointed to a massive satanic grave site in the open land outside Lancaster, California. All right. Another exists apparently at Matamoros, Mexico. The satanic ritual network connects into the children's homes, care centers. All right, this is care centers. This is talking about children centers. All right, and runaway hostels to ensure a constant supply of children. This is what we find about Hillary Clinton during the so-called Pizzagate. All right, there's a video in which that came from out of New York, in which that was once on YouTube, but they hurry up and took it down, in which that was put out by the New York police, in which that shows Hillary Clinton abusing and disfiguring and killing a black child. Okay? They want that adrenaline. All right, that adrenaline. They want that adrenaline. They want that. All right, that's what gives them that super high that they want. Right? Right. These are these reptilians that we're talking about. The basic Illuminati structure, and they also say that that she have Kuru, which is a disease, and this is why she was acting so crazy during the her candidacy, her political candidacy. And you see her shaking her head and busting out into laughter, and looking retarded. That came from those are symptoms of Kuru, which means of eating flesh. Okay, that's what's going on. All right, so you have the 13 so-called Illuminati families who are these, who's from the Vatican, the royal family. Then you have the 13 Illuminati families. Now behind the Pope, you have the Black Jesuits, the Black Pope, which is the Jesuits, the head of the Jesuits. All right, that's who controlled the White Pope, which is the head of the Catholic Church. All right, then you have the Queen of England. Then you have the Rothschilds, who was the banking family for the Vatican, Zionists. Then you have the Rockefellers, who they financed to control the Western Hemisphere. They control the East. The Rockefellers controls the West. The Rothschilds control the East. The Rockefellers control the so-called West. All right. Then you have the families, the Astors, the Bundys, the Collins, the DuPonts, the Morgans, the Lees, the Reynolds. All right. The Disney, the Knaps. All right. You have these particular families, which comes up to 13 of them. Right. The Morgans, the Van Dynes, the Merovingian. Right. All of them. All right. You can get this from the book John Todd. It was John Collins. He speaks about this information. All right, he talks about this, and then you also have the individual by the name of Fritz Springmeier, who wrote the book The 13 Illuminati Families. All right, you need to get those books. All right, get those books. All right, then you have all of these other positions within these various so-called secret orders as it comes down. All right. Characteristics of psychopaths: aggressive, callous, and cunning, complete absence of consciousness and empathy, very adept at manipulating others, especially emotionally, willingness to engage in immoral criminal conduct, willingness to take what they want and do as they please, regardless of who they hurt or wrong, deceptive appearance, or they have the ability to appear outwardly benevolent. Deceptive ability to behave in superficial, charming ways to hide purely selfish motives. Willingness to use intimidation, and violence to control others in order to satisfy their own needs. Willingness to initially violate the basic and inherited human rights of others. All right, now, if this doesn't fit the Albion Europeans, I don't know what does. We're talking about those in particular of the political system. Complete absence of any sense of guilt or remorse for the harm their actions have caused to others. Rationalization of their own immoral behavior. Will attempt to lie, blame upon someone else for their own conduct. They'll deny their own wrongdoing outright. Utter contemporaneousness, all right, towards the feelings and desires of their fellow human beings. Pathological liars will say anything without any concern for the truth in order to advance their own hidden agendas. Ability to fringe normal human emotions and empathy. Severely distort senses of the consequences of their own actions. Total failure to accept any responsibility for their own social irresponsible ways. Strong belief that they will never be brought to justice for their criminal behavior. And although it's impossible to predict if a child will grow up to be a psychopath or a serial killer, there are warning signs of future psychopathic behavior: animal torture, prolonged bedwetting, juvenile pyromania. All right, criminologists call these symptoms the triad because of their psychopathic nature. Serial killers do not know how to feel sympathy for others. They learn to simulate normal behaviors by observing others, but it is a manipulative act. All right. Henry Lee Lucas described being a serial killer as being like a movie star. You're playing a part, right? They convey being in the role of authority. Most psychiatrists note that psychopaths cannot be successfully treated. Well, this tells us that when you get the book by Dr. Bobby E. Wright, all right, PhD, The Psychopathic Racial Personality and Other Essays. He says this presentation is based upon the following very simple premise in their relationship with the black race. European whites are psychopaths, and their behavior reflects an underlying biological transmitted proclivity with roots deep in their evolutionary history. And we're gonna show them evolution. We're gonna show that evolutionary history, continue showing that evolutionary history. The psychopath is an individual who is constantly in conflict with other persons or groups. He is unaware, he is unable to experience guilt, and is completely selfish and callous, and has a total disregard for the rights of others. This premise is supported by overwhelming scientific evidence. Delaney, 1868, Dubois, 1896, Fionn, 1963, Garvey, 1967, Wesson, 1991, Williams, 1971. Get the Pathological Racial Personality by Bobby E. Wright, 1971. Also, another reason for that, for their non-feeling, all right, is because of the classification of the pineal gland. This is told to us in African Origin of Biological Psychiatry by Dr. Richard King. The Africans have 5 to 15% calcified pineal glands, Asians 15 to 25%, and Europeans 60 to 80%. That only leaves 20 to 40% that do not have calcified pineal glands, that can understand the information in which that we kicking and don't get offended, but know that what we're saying is the truth. These are the ones that Honorable Elijah Muhammad spoke of, in which that might survive. But these 60 to 80% calcified pineal glands won't survive. Again, the question of what do we do? There is no evidence that blacks and white races can live in close proximity to each other in peace without whites attempting to oppress and exterminate the blacks. In fact, there is overwhelming evidence that even white ethnic groups cannot live together. Irish and English, Greek and Turks, Arabs and Jews, etc. Behavioral scientists generally agree that there is no common or known cure for the psychopath. In fact, it is a widely held belief that the only successful treatment for the psychopath is incarceration, radical psychosurgery, which is lobotomization, or death. Therefore, since blacks are at war with psychopaths, violence is the only way. Okay, this is the belief of Bobby E. Wright. That's his belief. All right, I definitely understand what he's saying. There's no doubt about that. Unlike other extreme pathological syndromes, only a small, very small percentage of psychopaths are committed to mental hospitals, while another small percentage ends up in penal institutions. The majority of psychopaths, because remember, we had 60 to 80% anal gland calcified. The majority of the psychopaths function very well in society, at least they appear to. Remember, they are mimic. They mimic emotions. They are generally average or above average in intelligence and have engaging personalities. In addition, they are usually very impressive and competent with no feelings of insecurity, anxieties, or any other manifestations or psychoneurosis. They appear to be very honest and humane, but really have no concern or commitment except to their own selfish interests. Psychopaths will constantly make commitments that they have no intention on keeping, such as the 370 violations and breakage of the indigenous treaties, and show great indignation and anger when their integrity is questioned. Blacks in the United States learned this lesson very well during the civil rights confrontations of the 1960s. The white sheriffs and judges showed their greatest hostility when blacks began to quote the law to them. That's even now. Moors are seeing that in the courtrooms now. There's nothing has changed. This behavior can be seen clearly in whites' attitude towards black liberation. Look how they looked at and had a problem with Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter, which is funded by George Soros, And homosexuals are now at the front of it, as they are ahead of the civil rights movement. The LBDGQPT, whatever, they're there now. And the thing is this, is that they've taken over the civil rights movement. And we know that it's being backed by George Soros, this Black Lives Matter. But the FBI referred to them as a terrorist group. So the Moors are listed as a terrorist group. So this is clearly in the white pale albinos attitude towards Black liberation. White liberation gives lip service to Black liberation while arguing the Blacks are going too fast. White conservatives think Blacks have too much already. Now, the reason why you get this is because, once again, calcified pineal gland. Carol Barnes writes in Melanin, the Chemical Key to Black Greatness, he says melanin gives humans the ability to feel. So because they lack melanin and the calcification of the pineal gland, they lack the ability to feel. Because melanin is the absorber of all frequencies of energy. Dr. Francis Quest Welson states, since melanin is the super absorber of all energy, is essential to establish this understanding of God and all energy. The fact that the albino whites lack melanin may also help to explain why, in the view of many non-white people, whites lack spirituality and the capacity to tune into and thereby establish harmony and justice. This is why you get no justice, regardless on if you call yourself a Moor, African American, African, in America, Negro, Black, colored, whatever the case is. This is what you're dealing with. Behavioral scientists generally agree that the outstanding characteristics of the psychopathic personality are almost totally disregard for the appropriate patterns of behavior. The characteristics have been led to misunderstanding of the psychopath as someone who does not know the difference between right and wrong. This belief is not true. Psychopaths simply ignore the concept of right and wrong. By ignoring this trait in the white race, the lack of ethnical and moral development, Blacks or non-whites have made and are still making a tragic mistake in basing the worldwide Black non-white liberation movement on moral persuasion. It is pathological for Blacks or non-whites to keep attempting to use moral suasion on a people who has no morality, where race is the variable. Okay. The motive of serial killers generally fall into 4 categories. Psychopaths, someone who feels compelled by entities such as God or the devil to murder. This is what they always say. Oh, God told me. I heard the devil, Satan tell me, he spoke to me. Missions oriented to rid the world of homosexuals or prostitutes or cure of social ills. This is their God complex coming out. If serial killers fall into this. Hedonistic, someone who derives pleasure from killing. 4, power or control, hunger. The categories overlap considerably. It is rare for serial killers to prey on people from another race. Consequently, now Jeffrey Dahmer did. He ate everybody he can get his hands on. Filipino, Black, whatever. He liked chocolate. He worked in the chocolate factory. Consequently, because most serial killers are white, so are most of their victims, 89%. Most serial killers in the United States are Caucasian, 84%. You see, 80% calcified pineal gland. Psychopaths, this is what causes serial killers. Approximately 16% are African Americans and others. The United States has the highest number of serial killers with 76% of the world's total. Europe comes in a distant second with 17%. England has produced 28% of the Europe's serial killers. Germany 27% and France 13%. While women make up just a very small percentage of serial killers, they constitute the majority of victims, 65%. All right, so we're going to end right now. We're going to come back. All right, at 10 o'clock. All right, we're gonna come back at 10 o'clock and continue on. We're gonna keep getting it until you get the overstanding, understanding, understanding. All right, continuing now for days, weeks, months, years to come. We're moving towards our most cherished goals of health, wealth, knowledge of ourselves. Every action, enterprise, and endeavor in which that we wish to be involved is bringing increasing rewards. We have so much success and abundance that we're able to help and share and give to those who are sincere along the way. We're moving closer toward the oneness of God and Goddess and the full release of our higher inner selves. Ashe, and we are out, y'all. Peace. Come back at 10 o'clock tonight. We get ready to do it in another hour and a half. Hour and a half. Hour and a half. Hour and a half. All right, we out. Peace.